Chapter 761. Yixian's plan was very simple. As long as the old man's projection disappeared, he would be able to kill the celestial abundance city lord. The old man seemed to have noticed something and shouted, "I am Xia Yunyi. Don't make a mistake." This sentence was obviously meant for Yixian. Who is Xia Yunyi? This was the first thought that came to Yixian's mind when he heard this. However, from the sound of it, he seemed to have a strong background. It was a pity that Yixian didn't fall for it. "Old man, what do you think will happen if the emperor finds out that you are colluding with the Nether sect?" Yixian suddenly left the underground and shouted, "Boom!" The old man quickly threw out a palm strike, but it didn't hit Yixian. Just now, Yixian was hit because he was careless. It wouldn't be so easy to hit him now. However, Yixian's words made the old man's heart tremble. The Nether sect was a wanted force. If it was known that they were colluding with the Nether sect, they would be executed along with their entire family. "Brat, if you insist on courting death, then don't blame me." The old man's gaze turned colder. "Old man, if you have the guts, kill me." Yixian wasn't afraid at all. Boom! 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 The old man attacked again. Huge palm imprints came crashing down, but they all missed. Yixian had a quasi-supreme martial art movement technique. In addition to his various acceleration techniques, as long as he was careful, he would be able to dodge. Time slowly passed. "Grandfather, when will the helpers arrive?" The celestial abundance city lord asked as he helped. "Soon, don't worry." The old man comforted, but his expression turned gloomier. If the helpers didn't arrive in time, then the one who would die would be his grandson. "Old man, take this." Yixian felt that the old man's strength was getting weaker and weaker. After gathering his strength, he started to retaliate. However, the target of his attack was not the old man's projection, but the heavenly opulent city lord. Looking at Yixian's attack that was like a mad dog, the heavenly plentiful city lord found it extremely difficult to resist. He regretted using the luck that he had painstakingly condensed to attack Yixian instead of using it to block the attack. Otherwise, he would have been able to hold on a little longer. Boom! 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 The old man's attacks were getting weaker and weaker, but Yixian was still at his peak. "Not good, my projection is about to disappear." The old man's face darkened. He calculated the time and realized that there were only 10 seconds left. If he wasn't able to kill Yixian in the remaining time, and if his expert didn't come, then the Sky Plentiful City Lord would be in danger. 10 seconds. 9 seconds. 8 seconds. For people like Yixian, 1 second was actually very long. In 1 second they could attack dozens of times and run tens of thousands of meters. However, Yixian's speed was astonishing, and the old man's strength had been reduced to the point where he could not threaten Yixian. This time it was troublesome. "Grandfather." The Sky Plentiful City Lord was about to cry. Coming. The old man immediately comforted him. 3 seconds. 2 seconds. 1 second. Unfortunately, the old man's expert still hadn't arrived. "Bastard, if you dare to touch him, I, Xia Yunyi, will skin you alive." The old man roared towards the sky. "I'm right here, come if you have the guts." Yixian replied loudly. Before he could finish speaking, the old man's silhouette gradually faded and disappeared without a trace. "Grandfather." When the Sky Plentiful City Lord saw the old man disappear, he almost cried. Where was the promised expert? Yixian was wearing the dragon-patterned golden armor, and the martial arts he learned were of the saber type, so it was almost impossible to hurt Yixian. In addition, Yixian was faster than him, so he could only take a beating. "Sky Plentiful City Lord, now you don't have any helpers, right?" Yixian smiled coldly. The Sky Plentiful City Lord's face was gloomy as he turned around and ran. He couldn't do anything to Yixian, but Yixian shouldn't be able to kill him so easily, so he still had some time. "Want to leave?" "No way." Yixian's eyes lit up. Firmament Fissure. Wolfang Rush. Wolfang Rush was the Wolfang General's ultimate skill after all. It was powerful and fast, but most importantly it had restrictions. With a stab from Yixian, a giant wolf head bit towards the Sky Plentiful City Lord. "Explode for me." The Sky Plentiful City Lord slashed out with his saber, and the saber light clashed with the giant wolf head. However, he didn't notice that behind the giant wolf head, there was another giant wolf head. The giant wolf head opened its mouth and bit onto the Sky Plentiful City Lord's waist, biting onto his lower body. Not good. The Sky Plentiful City Lord looked at his fat stomach that was pierced by the wolf's teeth, and his face turned pale. The wolf Fang Rush had a strong bite force, and at the same time, it could restrict the opponent's movement. Yi Xian didn't think of using this move to kill the Sky Plentiful City Lord. He immediately used the chi that he just recovered to execute a few more Firmament Fissure. The Sky Plentiful City Lord's cultivation realm was higher than the Vice City Lord, but if they were at the same level, the armored man was much stronger than him. The Sky Plentiful City Lord wasn't able to defeat this Wolf Fang Rush in one strike. As such, it was even more impossible for him to dodge Yi Xian's killing move. Swish! A series of air-piercing sounds could be heard, as though a malicious spirit was locking onto his soul. The Sky Plentiful City Lord was already in despair, and the muscles on his chubby face were trembling. My grandfather will not let you off. The Sky Plentiful City Lord roared towards the sky. SSS! A firmament fissure swept across his skull, slicing his brain open. Sky Plentiful City Lord dead. How old are you? Still looking for your grandfather? Yi Xian was filled with disdain as he hurried over. Ding! Host broke through. The current Emperor's intent seal is at 50%. The system notified. However, before Yi Xian could carefully inspect the items in the Sky Plentiful City Lord's universe ring, an extremely strong aura rapidly approached. Not good, retreat. Yi Xian hurriedly kept the Sky Plentiful City Lord's corpse and burrowed into the ground. Not long later, a person rushed over. Smelling the surrounding blood stench, he said with a horrified expression, I'm still one step too late. After killing the Sky Plentiful City Lord, Yi Xian quickly left the scene. He didn't dare to go to the Sky Plentiful City because that old man, Xia Yuni, seemed to have a powerful background. Fortunately, Yi Xian wore the dragon-patterned golden armor before going to the City Lord Manor. He even changed his voice so even if he saw Xia Yuni with his real face, the other party might not be able to recognize him. However, the Wolf Fang Sword, dragon-patterned golden armor, firmament fissure, and Wolf Fang Rush would all expose his identity. After leaving the battle site, Yi Xian kept the dragon-patterned golden armor and revealed his real body. He started to investigate the Sky Plentiful City Lord's universe ring. However, he didn't manage to find anything. Although the trail is broken, that Xia Yuni is the Sky Plentiful City Lord's grandfather. Furthermore, he must be related to the Nether sect. Yi Xian thought in his heart. Since the other party dared to announce his name and wanted to force him to retreat, then he must be someone with a powerful background. As long as he casually asked around, he would be able to find out. Chapter 762. Immediately, Yi Xian returned to Heavenly Abundance City. At this moment, Heavenly Abundance City was in chaos because the City Lord had yet to return. The name Xia Yuni had also spread to Heavenly Abundance City. Therefore, Yi Xian wouldn't be suspected when he asked about this name. He wouldn't know if he didn't ask around. Xia Yuni was a favorite of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's 7th prince, and helped him take care of many matters. Simply put, he was the 7th prince's butler. As for the 7th prince, he was one of the candidates for the position of crown prince in the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. So his background is so big. Looks like things are getting tricky. Yi Xian squinted his eyes. The Heavenly Abundance City Lord colluded with the Nether sect, and was responsible for handing over thousands of nether lanterns to his grandfather every month. From the looks of it, it was likely that the 7th prince was behind the Nether Soul sect. Does the current emperor not know about it, or is he not going to expose it? Yi Xian couldn't figure it out. The Nether sect was so rampant that it was impossible for the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor to not know. However, the crown prince would be appointed soon. Therefore, it was normal for the princes to play some tricks. I will do my best to fulfill the Wolf Fang general's wish. However, the other party's background is not small. I should break through first. Yi Xian thought in his heart as he flew towards the blazing Sacred Dynasty's territory. Although he had the dragon-patterned golden armor, he had killed the Heavenly Abundance City Lord. The dragon-patterned golden armor would definitely be exposed. Therefore, he wouldn't take it out unless he had no other choice. If he wanted to fulfill the Wolf Fang general's wish, he would need to be powerful. At the very least, he had to be invincible in the half-step Supreme Being realm. Invincible in the Supreme Being realm was still too far away from him. However, the heavenly prison was a good place to train. He could even kill the heavenly prison's great leader. Who could stop him? After making the decision, Yi Xian flew into the blazing Sacred Dynasty's territory. This time he was going to go all out. At the same time, in the distant Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's imperial capital, the 7th Prince's palace. Your Highness, I have something to report. Xia Yuni, who had almost slapped Yi Xian to death earlier, respectfully said from outside a palace. In the next moment the palace door was opened. This palace was the palace of the 7th Prince of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. What is it? A calm voice came from the palace. Xia Yuni quickly walked in. The 7th Prince of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty was a young man about the same age as Yi Xian. He wore a long golden robe and wore a golden crown. He had the demeanor of a ruler. Beside him stood an enchanting woman in black. Your Highness, bad news. The ancient Saint Dynasty's Wolf-Fang General's dragon-patterned golden armor has appeared. Xia Yuni immediately reported. What? The 7th Prince's face stiffened. Before he could speak, the woman in black beside him exclaimed, Golden dragon-patterned armor? Xia Yuni glanced at the black-clothed woman and said with some resentment, Yes, my grandson was killed by this person wearing the dragon-patterned golden armor. What is that person's strength? The 7th Prince could not help but ask. The great emperor's will sealed 45% of his body and appeared in the 6th heaven prison. At that time my supreme projection wasn't able to kill him. Xia Yuni replied. Only 45% of his body? The 7th Prince and the black-clothed woman were shocked. This was a little unbelievable. After all, the Wolf-Fang General was a half-step Supreme Being when he was alive. When he disappeared, it was said that he failed his tribulation and was killed by the Supreme Being Tribulation. Why did he kill the Heavenly Abundance City Lord? The 7th Prince asked curiously. That person killed the Heavenly Abundance City Lord and found evidence of the Nether Soul cult. Therefore he followed the clues. Xia Yuni said slowly. The 7th Prince's eyes widened and he said sternly, Does that mean he knows? Xia Yuni was scared half to death. He hurriedly said, Your Highness, please calm down. My grandson is very cautious. Normally, he wouldn't leave behind any evidence. What if there is? The 7th Prince's eyes widened. Xia Yuni was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. I will go and investigate now. After he finished speaking, he turned around and left. The 7th Prince looked at his back and muttered, The 6th heaven prison is my territory. Could he be one of the 4th Prince's men? Your Highness, that person has only sealed 45% of his body with the great Emperor's will. It's a waste to give him the dragon-patterned golden armor. He shouldn't be one of the 4th Prince's men. The black-robed woman reminded. That's true. However, father favors the 4th Prince. I'm afraid that the Crown Prince's trial this time. The 7th Prince was worried. Your Highness, please don't worry. With the Nether Soul cult's help, the Crown Prince position will definitely be yours. The black-robed woman comforted. The 7th Prince snorted. Humph, when will the Nether Soul guards you mentioned appear? Those who use secret techniques to increase their strength will have the Nether Soul tattoo. If it isn't removed, they will be hated by everyone. After a while, when the experts of my cult remove this side effect, the Nether Soul guards will be like ordinary people. Sunflame Holy Court, 6th Heaven Prison. At this time 7 days had passed since Yi Xian killed the Heavenly Abundance City Lord. In these 7 days, Yi Xian had been killing in the Blazing Flame Holy Court. He had once again increased his strength, and his great emperor's will had sealed 55% of his body. At the same time, the providence above his head had also increased to purple. Purple providence seems to be able to exchange for a marquis title directly. Yi Xian's eyes lit up. A marquis title was not low, as even the Heavenly Abundance City Lord was only a marquis. However, it was a pity that he did not obtain the Providence secret technique that the Heavenly Abundance City Lord had used. He immediately went to another main city in the 6th Heaven prison. After exchanging his purple providence for a marquis title, he left the 6th Heaven prison. He first returned to the general's tomb to increase the strength of his doppelganger before heading to the imperial capital again. This time he was going to infiltrate the enemy's territory to investigate. The imperial capital of every empire was very complicated. Moreover, the Nether Soul cult was related to the seventh prince of the Sunflame Holy Court. Soon Yi Xian arrived at the imperial capital of the Sunflame Holy Court. The size of the imperial capital was the largest he had ever seen. It was said that there were already tens of millions of people living in the imperial capital of the Sunflame Holy Court. After all, it was the place where the emperor of the Sunflame Holy Court and the nobles lived. Those who could live in the imperial capital were either rich or noble. Yi Xian walked through the gate and sighed inwardly at the power of the imperial capital of the Sunflame Holy Court. The two groups of soldiers guarding the gate had both sealed 60% of their bodies with great emperor's will. 60%. What did that mean? It was the same cultivation level as the deputy city lord of the heavenly abundance city that Yi Xian had killed. The sixth heaven prison is said to be the seventh prince's territory. However, it is only a middle-grade heaven prison. The seventh prince has a third heaven prison, which is filled with advanced half-step supremes. Yi Xian thought as he walked. Chapter 763. The reason why the heavenly prison was so popular was because one could use their luck to buy an official position and a noble title. Yi Xian's marquis title allowed him to receive more than 10,000 supreme pills every month. Moreover, there were various unimaginable benefits. Man, Viscount, Count, Marquis and Duke, these were the 5 noble ranks. Above Marquis was Duke. It was said that a Duke could receive 100,000 supreme pills every month. As long as one could obtain a Duke title, one would not have to worry about cultivation in the future. Those with these titles had to obey the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's orders when necessary. The Wolfang General was a prince of the ancient Sacred Dynasty when he was alive. He had both an official position and a Duke title. However, why is the 3,000 Wolfang cavalry so different from the legendary ones? I have to find ores and reforge them myself. Yi Xian was very puzzled. In the treasure pavilion, other than the natural treasures, there were also many mechanisms and other things. Among them, there was content to increase the strength of the 3,000 Wolfang cavalry and the 10 deputy generals. Therefore, Yi Xian guessed that the 3,000 Wolfang cavalry were not the Wolfang generals, but a sample. However, he had obtained the most precious item, the dragon-patterned golden armor. This set of dragon-patterned golden armor was more valuable than anything else. It was a priceless treasure. Yi Xian arrived at the office of the nobility. "Sir, what can I do for you?" As soon as he entered, an attendant came up to him. Yi Xian did not waste time and took out the marquis token and the official document. He guessed that the 6th heavenly prison had already sent the news. He just needed to confirm the marquis token and his appearance. Soon, the person in the office confirmed Yi Xian's identity. "Marquis Zhaopan, your identity has been confirmed. This is your marquis token." The attendant handed some things to Yi Xian. Only earls could settle down in the imperial capital. Yi Xian's marquis had even gifted him a huge mansion. "Thank you." Yi Xian thanked the attendant and prepared to leave. However, at this moment, "Little brother, wait a moment." Suddenly, someone walked over and called out to Yi Xian. Yi Xian turned around and saw a white-haired elder. His cultivation level seemed to be higher than his. "Sir, is there anything I can help you with?" Yi Xian said calmly. "I am Shi Yang from the 6th Emperor's residence." "Little brother, are you interested in joining the 6th Emperor's residence?" "The 6th Emperor's residence?" Yi Xian raised an eyebrow. The 6th Emperor's residence was the 6th Prince's residence. In the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty, all the princes who had reached the age of 18 had to move out of the palace and develop on their own. Only then could they compete for the position of crown prince. When Yi Xian was, the current emperor had more than 10 children, and the day of the crown prince was approaching, so the princes were eager to make a move and began to recruit soldiers. As for the 6th prince, he was the weakest of the 4. "Little brother, you're so young, but you've already sealed your body with the great emperor's will. You'll definitely become the 6th prince's right-hand man in the future," Shi Yang said. However, this was a little exaggerated. Yi Xian's aptitude was not bad, but he felt that Yi Xian would need at least 10 years to grow. but the crown prince would probably have ascended the throne in 10 years. He was only following the sixth prince's instructions. He would not reject anyone he saw. Yixian naturally did not believe Shi Yang's nonsense. However, he glanced around and saw that there were many people around. They were probably waiting here on behalf of the other imperial palaces. My actual combat strength is not that bad. However, they are recruiting based on cultivation level. Now that the day of the Crown Prince competition is approaching, they should be hoping to recruit someone with a higher cultivation level. That will be useful. Yixian hesitated for a moment. Since the other imperial palaces looked down on him, and only the sixth emperor's residence sent him an invitation, he might as well accept it. Joining the imperial palaces would definitely be beneficial. He could also find out a lot of information. I'll join. Yixian nodded. All right, please follow me. Shi Yang did not feel happy about Yixian's agreement. He immediately led Yixian away. The other imperial palace's representatives sighed inwardly. It seemed that the sixth emperor's residence was planning to withdraw from the crown prince competition. Otherwise, why would they accept someone with only 55% great emperor's will? One had to know that they only accepted dukes. Marquises were rare. Normally, a duke-level expert would have at least 70% great emperor's will sealed within their body. That was the requirement. Yixian glanced at the others and silently followed. He did not know if the seventh emperor's residence was among those who did not go forward. However, that was not important. Senior Shi, are we going to see the sixth prince now? Yixian could not help but ask along the way. No, the sixth prince is busy. I'll take you to see the steward now. Shi Yang shook his head. The steward? That Xia Yuni seemed to be the seventh prince's steward. Then what benefits do I get from joining the sixth emperor's residence? Yixian asked. Every month, you can receive some cultivation resources and some cultivation rooms in the sixth emperor's residence. Shi Yang replied. Yixian did not care about these things. After all, his cultivation realm was not high, so he probably did not receive many things. The Crown Prince competition is about to start. The sixth prince probably has no time to care about me. Yixian thought to himself. He joined the sixth emperor's residence on a whim. He wanted to find a background for himself so that it would be more convenient for him to investigate the ghost cult. Soon, Shi Yang brought Yixian to the sixth emperor's residence and handed him over to the steward. The sixth emperor's steward's strength was unfathomable. He was probably not any weaker than Xia Yuni. However, he did not have much interest in Yixian. He directly assigned a residence to Yixian. Kid, in 3 days' time, the sixth prince will select the remaining 5 spots for the crown prince competition. You can come and take a look. The sixth emperor's steward said to Yixian. Yixian raised his brows after hearing this. He had a bit of an understanding of the crown prince's trial. Many princes would participate in the crown prince competition this time. The winner would become the Sunflame Holy Dynasty's crown prince. Among them, each prince could choose 10 members to assist the prince. Those 5 spots should have been decided internally. The remaining 5 spots will be obtained through battles. Yixian guessed. If that was the case, he could go and take a look. If it was possible, he would go and show his strength. After all, he was not weak. The first prince, the fourth prince, the sixth prince, and the seventh prince were the best of the best. They were the 4 most likely to become the crown prince. Chapter 764. After making his decision, Yixian returned to his residence in the sixth emperor's residence. Currently, he was at 55% of the great emperor's will seal, which was relatively weak. However, as long as he broke through a few more times, he would be able to activate the second bloodline expansion window. The first bloodline expansion window was for the auxiliary bloodline, while the second was for the physique bloodline. Yixian had already chosen the second physique bloodline. It was a growth-type physique bloodline which was very good. This physique bloodline was called the Heavenly Eye Clan bloodline. As long as he obtained a specific item, he would be able to activate the Heavenly Eye. The Eye of Insight, which had a photographic memory and could see through the essence of everything. The Eye of Illusion, which could cast illusions. The Eye of Control, which could control enemies. The Eye of Nirvana, which had an extremely strong offensive power. And the Eye of Eternity, which could turn vital points into eyes. As long as he obtained a specific item, he would be able to activate the Heavenly Eye. In addition, there was the eye of perception, eye of void, eye of glory, etc. The reason why Yi Xian did not choose the Heavenly Eye clan bloodline directly was because the item required was too precious. Furthermore, the price of this bloodline was much higher than the Beast God bloodline. At this moment, Yi Xian had already formulated a plan in his heart. He would obtain a spot for the Crown Prince trial, activate the Heavenly Eye clan bloodline, and help the sixth prince obtain the position of Crown Prince. 3 days passed quickly. When the 4th day arrived, Yi Xian left early because the sixth prince needed to select 5 people to participate in the Crown Prince trial with him. At this moment, hundreds of experts had already gathered in the martial arts field of the sixth emperor's residence. These people were all experts that the sixth prince had recruited. The weakest of them had at least 60% of the great emperor's will seal, while the stronger ones had already sealed 70 to 80%. Yi Xian went in and looked around. He saw that the sixth emperor's residence's general manager had already arrived, and beside him stood a young man wearing a golden dragon robe. This young man was quite handsome, with sword-like eyebrows and a slender figure. He faintly exuded the aura of a superior person. He must be the sixth prince. The martial arts field was noisy, and many people were discussing the others. This time hundreds of people had come to compete for 5 spots. The competition was not ordinary. When the time came, the chief steward beside the sixth prince stepped forward. In an instant, the entire martial arts field fell silent. Everyone, the sixth prince is still short of 5 people. These 5 people will be chosen today. This time, the Crown Prince trial is of great importance. If we can assist the sixth prince to ascend to the position of Crown Prince, then everyone present will be heavily rewarded. The head steward of the sixth prince's palace said loudly. Everyone present listened attentively. They all knew the sixth prince's character, which was why they all came to seek refuge with him. However, if he wanted to win against more than 10 princes, there were still a few hurdles to cross. It was not that easy. This old man will not waste any more words. I have a list here, and there are 5 of the sixth prince's personal guards. As long as you can defeat one of them, you can get a spot. Of course, even if you are not strong enough, as long as you are chosen by the sixth prince, it is still possible. After all, this trial is for people who are both intelligent and courageous, not boorish. After the head steward of the sixth prince's palace said loudly, 5 burly men walked up to the martial arts field. These 5 burly men had strong backs and bare waists, and their faces were resolute. They were the sixth prince's personal guards, and their great emperor's will had reached 70%. After seeing these 5 people, most of the people present gave up on the idea. Those who had less than 70% of their great emperor's will sealed in the martial arts field were simply courting death. The 100 people were instantly reduced to a dozen. Everyone only has one chance to challenge. The head steward of the sixth prince's palace reminded them. Who will go first? Me. As soon as the head steward of the sixth prince's palace finished speaking, a person took out a huge blade and walked out of the crowd. Immediately someone recognized him. This is the wild blade warrior Cao Bao, who came to seek refuge with the sixth prince yesterday. He has reached 80% of his great emperor's will. Among those present, his realm is the highest. Wild blade warrior Cao Bao. I heard that he is very famous in the third heaven prison. It won't be a problem for him to get one of the spots. Wild blade warrior Cao Bao walked out and pointed casually. It's you. The personal guard who had been named walked out with a resolute expression on his face. The personal guards of the sixth prince were actually suicide soldiers. As long as the sixth prince gave the order, they would immediately commit suicide without any hesitation, let alone facing an opponent 2 realms higher than them. Let's begin. The head steward of the sixth prince's palace said. Although Cao Bao's realm was high, they still had to go through the formalities. I don't need to use a blade to deal with you, Cao Bao said as he put away the huge blade in his hand and threw out a punch. That personal guard also ignited his true chi and went up to meet the attack. Bang! Although there was a difference of 2 realms between them, the personal guard still managed to take Cao Bao's punch. The personal guards of the sixth prince are indeed extraordinary. Cao Bao's eyes flashed, and in the next moment, a burst of chi suddenly blasted out from his fist, directly sending his opponent flying. Everyone present was shocked. Cao Bao clearly did not throw out a punch, So how could his opponent be sent flying? This move is a bit like my tiger wolf roar. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. The tiger wolf roar had been outdated for a long time. Yi Xian was not even at the true darkness realm, but this kind of sinister fist technique was very useful. It was a pity that he did not have the Heavenly Eye clan's bloodline, and did not have the insightful eye. Otherwise, he could see the true qi in his opponent's body and copy this martial art into the engulfing system. Good, Qiao Bao will take one spot. The head steward of the sixth prince's palace nodded. Qiao Bao's realm was high, so it was not a problem for him to take one spot. Now there were only 4 spots left. Among the consecrators present, other than Qiao Bao who had 80% of his strength, the highest was 75%. These people were restless. After Qiao Bao stepped down, someone immediately jumped up. 75% against 70%. Boom! 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 Soon the martial arts field rumbled. The consecrator who had 75% of his strength actually fought to a draw with the personal guard who had 75% of his strength sealed by the great emperor's will. As expected of the personal guards of the sixth prince, they actually dared to challenge someone of a higher realm. Of course, how can they protect the sixth prince if they are not capable? Oh, it seems like he is going to lose. Everyone began to focus their attention. At this moment, one of the 2 people in the field was already at a disadvantage and looked like he was going to lose. However, what was surprising was that this person was not a member of the personal guard, but the challenger. Boom! With a muffled sound, the consecrator who had 75% of his strength sealed by the great emperor's will was sent out of the martial arts field. He succeeded in challenging someone of a higher realm. Chapter 765. That consecrator's face was gloomy. He did not expect that he would not be able to get a spot despite suppressing his opponent. What a pity. At this moment there were still 4 spots left. Next, more and more people went up to the arena. However, most of them were at 75% to 70%. After 8 rounds, only 3 people succeeded. Now there was only 1 spot left. It's time to go up. Yi Xian's eyes lit up as he jumped onto the arena. However, after he landed, another person landed. It was a middle-aged man. Kid, this is not a place for you to come up. Get out. This middle-aged man was very arrogant because he could feel that Yi Xian's aura was not strong. He estimated that it was not even 60%. How dare he challenge someone at such a level? He was courting death. Everything is first come, first served. Please wait for me to finish my challenge. Yi Xian smiled faintly and walked forward. What an arrogant kid. Sir, this kid is disrupting the order. I'll help you send him flying. The middle-aged man coldly snorted and directly charged towards Yi Xian. Facing the sneak attack, Yi Xian took out his spiritual sword and attacked as fast as lightning. Bang! The sword light hit the middle-aged man's chest and sent him flying. Hiss! Many of the people present sucked in a breath of cold air. They thought that Yi Xian would be sent flying with a single punch. Unexpectedly, that middle-aged man was a paper tiger and could not withstand a single blow. No, it was not that he could not withstand a single blow, but Yi Xian's strength was shocking. In the imperial capital, you can't judge a book by its cover. The other princes also have young powerhouses under their command. Some people thought to themselves. This attack left a very deep impression on the surrounding people because if this sword had landed on them, it would have been enough to kill them instantly. Oh! The sixth prince, who had not said a word from the beginning, suddenly raised his eyebrows. Even he did not expect Yi Xian to have such strength. It was really rare. Director Zhua, who is this person? The sixth prince could not help but ask. This. The chief steward of the sixth emperor's mansion glanced at Yi Xian. He thought for a while and said, "It seems that Shi Yang brought him back 3 days ago. He is a talent that can be molded. I wonder if he can get the 10th spot." The sixth prince smiled. There were many opportunities in the crown prince trial. Not only did he want people who were both intelligent and courageous, he also wanted people with potential. For example, Yi Xian was a genius who could challenge people 3 levels above him. If Yi Xian were to obtain a fortuitous encounter in the crown prince trial, then his strength would advance by leaps and bounds, and he could become one of the most capable generals under his command. After the middle-aged man was sent flying by Yi Xian, his expression turned ugly. He disappeared into the crowd, not daring to say another word. Young man, this is the last spot. You must make good use of it. The chief steward of the 6th Emperor's palace said. I will. Yixian nodded. There was only one target left on the training field, so Yixian had no other choice. When the last guard saw Yixian take out his weapon and send a middle-aged man of the same level flying, he did not dare to be careless. He also took out a quasi-supreme divine weapon. The last spot is mine. Yixian's eyes flashed, and he took the initiative to attack. Although his cultivation level was 3 levels lower, he had various bloodlines in his body. Most importantly, if he burst out at full speed, his opponent would not be able to keep up with his speed. Pa! 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 Yixian's feet alternated rapidly on the training field. His speed was so fast that it shocked everyone present. So fast. This kid's future is limitless. The 6th prince was shocked. At this moment he had already made up his mind. Even if Yixian was defeated, he would give the last spot to Yixian. However, Yixian did not need it. Peng! The battle had only started for 2 seconds when a figure flew out of the arena. The one who was still standing on the arena was Yixian. Yixian victory. Good. The 10th spot has been confirmed. The 6th prince's residence's manager reacted and shouted loudly. Yixian's strength was enough to defeat an opponent 3 levels higher in 2 seconds. Moreover, the opponent was the 6th prince's personal guard. After defeating the opponent, Yixian heaved a sigh of relief. Obtaining a spot to enter the Crown Prince trial was only the first step of his plan. Alright, everyone disperse. 5 of you stay. The 6th prince's manager said. Hundreds of people left the training field helplessly. It was not that they did not want to help the 6th prince, but they did not have the strength. Soon there were less than 10 people left in the training field. In 7 days it will be the Crown Prince trial. I'm sure you all know how important it is. In the next 7 days, if you need anything, feel free to look for me. After the 6th prince's manager finished speaking, he took out a few interspatial rings and handed them to Yixian and the other 4. The interspatial rings contain some information about the Crown Prince trial, as well as the draconic fate of the universe. You should have heard of the draconic fate of the universe. After mastering it, you can use the stored draconic fate to increase your battle strength. Yixian took the interspatial rings. Previously, when he killed the Celestial Abundance City's city lord, he did not obtain the method to enhance his draconic fate. However, this draconic fate of the universe was obviously more powerful than the draconic fate of the universe. The Crown Prince trial is divided into 3 sections. The first section is the draconic fate battle. Every prince's 10 subordinates will hold the prince token and enter a secret realm. The final section will be ranked according to the total draconic fate. Yixian gave a rough glance. In the first 2 sections of the Crown Prince trial, the princes would not participate in it personally. They would only participate in the final section. In the remaining 7 days, if your cultivation base improves, it will be of great help to the 6th prince. If you need anything, you can write it down for me now. As long as it's reasonable, I will try my best to satisfy you, said the manager of the 6th prince's residence. Qiao Bao and the rest's eyes lit up. They immediately took out a pen and paper and wrote down what they needed for their cultivation. Yixian did the same. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Now that the 2nd bloodline expansion slot is about to be exchanged, the Heavenly Eye clan's heaven and earth treasure that they need is not available in the 6th heaven prison. Yixian did not waste any more time and started to write down what he needed. Qiao Bao was the first to finish writing and handed it in. Yes, I can get all the things you need. The manager of the 6th prince's residence nodded. The other 3 also demanded an exorbitant price. However, the things they needed were very precious to them, but to the 6th prince it was just a drop in the ocean. In the end, when Yixian handed the list to the manager of the 6th prince's residence, the latter could not help but raise his eyebrows. Chapter 766. Young man, I've only heard of one of the things you wrote. The head steward of the 6th emperor's mansion was a bit surprised. With his experience, he actually only recognized one type. He even started to wonder if Yixian had written it randomly. The 6th prince walked over and glanced at it. There are only 2 or 3 of these things in our national treasury. The 6th prince was shocked. He didn't know how Yixian knew the names of these things. However, he did have one in his interspatial ring. Although I don't know why you want these things, I think you're very special. This cave spirit fruit is useless to me, so you can have it. In addition, Chief Steward Zhua, give him another 1,000,000 supreme pills. He must seal 60% of the great emperor's will before the crown prince trial. The sixth prince generously tossed Yixian a sparkling and translucent fruit. The cave spirit fruit was a necessity for the Heavenly Eye clan to open a heavenly eye. This heavenly eye was called the Eye of Revelation. It allowed the host to have a photographic memory and see through the essence of everything. If combined with the devouring system, Yixian could copy the opponent's martial arts and cultivate it. Thank you, Your Highness, Yixian said gratefully. A duke could earn 100,000 supreme venerable pills a month, and 1,000,000 supreme venerable pills would take 10 months to earn. 1,000,000 supreme pills was enough for a person to reach 70% body seal. However, for Yixian, he could only reach 60% body seal at most. Alright, you can go back first. I'll get someone to deliver the things to you one by one, the chief steward said. Then Yixian and the other 4 left. After they left, only the chief steward and the sixth prince were left in the martial arts arena. Chief Steward Zhua, what do you think? The sixth prince suddenly asked. The chief steward hesitated for a moment, then said, Qiao Bao's strength is close to the 5 chosen by Your Highness. However, Yixian's talent is quite good. If he gets the inheritance, he might not be weaker than the others. I hope he can make a difference and be a great help to me in the future. However, the other 3 princes' teams are much stronger than mine. The sixth prince sighed helplessly. In fact, he was not confident either. After all, he was the weakest of the 4 princes. After leaving the training field, Yixian returned to his own courtyard. Ding! The host has broken through. The current seal of the great emperor's will is at 60%. When Yixian stepped into the courtyard, he swallowed the 1,000,000 supreme pills and broke through. I've finally broken through. Yixian's eyes lit up. The royal family was indeed powerful. Although the princes had left the palace to develop on their own, they were still not comparable to ordinary people. Just now, when Yixian was there, he discovered that the chief steward of the 6th imperial residence was probably not lower than that Qiao Bao. Yixian understood that the 6th prince was probably the one who was hiding his strength. He was probably the strongest person present at that time. However, the most important part was yet to come. Ding! Host has successfully assimilated the Heavenly Eye clan bloodline. Ding! Eye of Revelation has been successfully activated. 2 notifications rang out. Yixian opened the Eye of Revelation with the cave spirit fruit that the 6th prince had given him. The Eye of Revelation increases the range of vision and allows me to see through all illusions. Most importantly, when combined with the devouring system, I can directly copy the enemy's martial arts. Yixian squinted his eyes. If he could defeat him with the enemy's martial arts, it would be a wonderful feeling. He took out a mirror and looked at it. He found that there was no change in his eyes. However, with a thought, the scene in front of him changed. At this moment, he had the ability to see through things. He could see through the house and see what was going on in the courtyard. In the courtyard next door, a consecrated was practicing martial arts. Yixian stared at him and saw the path of the vital energy in his body. Ding! Copy of the Absolute Void Palm successfully. Do you want to learn it? The system prompted. No. Yixian was shocked. As long as he stared at it once, he would be able to directly learn it. This skill was simply too amazing. Of course, he had to look at it completely. Using the Eye of Revelation requires eye power. It seems that the bloodline of the divine tree of life can't recover it quickly. This is a tragedy. Yixian was slightly helpless. If he couldn't recover his eye power quickly, it meant that he had to use it carefully. If he overused it, his eyes would be so tired that he couldn't open them. However, he couldn't care less because the bloodline had already been merged. He couldn't exchange for another bloodline. Ding! The host has learned the Heavenly Dragon Blessing. Yixian learned the Heavenly Dragon Blessing given by the 6th prince's residence. This martial art could use the luck stored in some items. Previously, when the Tianfeng City Lord was in the Heavens prison, he had the luck above his head. However, when he was outside, he had to store it in something. For example, the prince's token that one would obtain during the Crown Prince trial. Of course, the royal family could seal the dragon blessing in their body and use it when necessary. Then Yi Xian began to understand the content of the Crown Prince trial. The first 2 stages of the Crown Prince trial are completed by the 10 subordinates. During the trial they are allowed to kill and steal the dragon blessing. Seeing this, Yi Xian's eyes lit up. 7 days passed quickly. During these 7 days, Yi Xian took some time to visit the martial arts pavilion in the 6th prince's residence. He copied all the martial arts in there into the Devouring system. This time he couldn't use the firmament splitter, wolf tooth rush, wolf tooth sword, and dragon-marked golden armor. Otherwise he would be recognized. The first 3 were fine, but once the dragon-marked golden armor was exposed, he would be in danger. An innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. The dragon-marked golden armor could withstand 20% of the lightning tribulation's power. Those half-supremes coveted it. Unless it was a critical moment, he wouldn't reveal it. 7 days later, the 6th prince sent someone to summon Yi Xian. Today, they had to go to the royal palace to participate in the Crown Prince trial. At the same time, Yi Xian also saw the 5 people that the 6th prince had selected. These 5 people were not ordinary people. Among the 5 people, there was Chief Steward Zhua from the 6th prince's residence. The other 4 were Gu Jian, Poison Matriarch, and the 6th prince's personal guard Yang Qi. This was the first group. The second group was led by Chao Bao and Yi Xian's group. So strong. Their auras aren't any weaker than Chief Steward Zhua's. When Yi Xian saw these 5 people, he was also extremely shocked. This was because his cultivation level was truly too lacking compared to these 5 people. When the 5 people saw Yi Xian's group, they only glanced at them. Among them, Gu Jian couldn't help but ask, Chief Steward Zhua, why is there a 60% physique sealing expert? Haha, this kid's strength is not bad. He can challenge someone 3 levels higher. Chief Steward Zhua said with a smile. At the same time, he thought that Yi Xian didn't disappoint. He broke through to 60% physique sealing expert in 7 days. Chapter 767. Oh! Gu Jian glanced at Yi Xian before retracting his gaze. He had seen many geniuses like him, but many of them had died prematurely. Soon the 6th prince arrived. At the same time, a golden-winged roc landed. Everyone, follow me into the palace. The 6th prince stood on the back of the golden-winged roc and said to the 10 people below. Yi Xian and the others flew up. The Crown Prince trial was finally about to begin. The 6th prince's residence was near the imperial city, so the golden-winged roc arrived quickly. When they arrived, there were already more than 100 people below. In addition, there was a group of officials from the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty on the stairs, but the emperor was nowhere to be seen. There are so many experts. A man beside Yi Xian couldn't help but exclaim. With so many experts gathered together, the aura was extremely terrifying. At this moment, Yi Xian's heart couldn't help but beat wildly. These experts were actually not too bad. After all, there were true supreme being experts in the palace. Oh, the 6th prince is here. When the 6th prince landed with Yi Xian and the others, a young man in golden clothes walked over. He was the 4th prince. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that there were more than 3,000 beauties in the harem of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. Hence, it wasn't difficult to have more than 10 princes. Although the 4th prince was the 6th prince's brother, their mothers were not the same person. 4th brother. The 6th prince hurriedly greeted. The 4th prince glanced at the 10 people behind the 6th prince and whispered, 6th brother, these people don't seem to be much. Why don't you lend me a hand? Chief Steward Zhua's group of 6 was alright, but Yi Xian's group of 4 wasn't enough. This was because the weakest person in the 4th prince's group was at physique seal 80%. 4th brother, you really know how to joke, the 6th prince said with a smile. In other words, he was telling the 6th prince to stop dreaming. The eldest prince, the 4th prince, the 6th prince, and the 7th prince were the most likely to become the crown prince. Among them, the 1st prince was the most mysterious. The 4th prince and the 7th prince had a lot of conflicts in private. The 6th prince remained neutral, but that didn't mean that he wouldn't compete. Ha ha ha, 4th brother, the crown prince trial isn't just about strength. Luck is also very important. A hearty laugh came from not far away. Everyone turned around and saw another young man walking over. 7th brother, your 4th brother's luck is pretty good. The fourth prince said with a smile, but his eyes flashed a few times. That was because many of the experts under his command had been secretly dealt with by the seventh prince. At this moment, Yi Xian's gaze also fell on the seventh prince. The grandfather of the heavenly plentiful city lord Xia Yunyi was the chief steward of the seventh emperor's residence. The memory of how Yi Xian was beaten to a pulp was still fresh in his mind. This grudge must be avenged. As expected, Yi Xian saw Xia Yunyi through the seventh prince's silhouette, causing his heart to tremble. Although he had changed his voice because he wore the dragon-patterned golden armor, he was still afraid that the other party would recognize him. The three princes seemed to be chatting on the surface, but in fact, there was a surging undercurrent. They were all hiding daggers in their smiles. The fourth prince and the seventh prince were mocking each other, while the sixth prince was watching from the side with a smile. There were many princes around, but they weren't very powerful. Some of them were just here to join in the fun and steal some draconic luck, while others wanted to join in. If they were lucky, it wouldn't be a problem for them to become the crown prince. However, the mysterious first prince didn't appear. Not long after, everyone arrived one after another. There were a total of 17 princes, and all of them were present. 17 princes meant that there were a total of 170 people. However, it was difficult for a prince to recruit an 80% physique seal expert, so they could only rely on their luck and see if they could have a fortuitous encounter in the secret realm. Everyone waited for a while, then a person flew into the sky. Silence! A voice that sounded like a duck's throat entered everyone's ears, and everyone fell silent. Its father's favorite, Eunuch Wu. The princes recognized him at a glance. Eunuch Wu was the one who took care of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor when he was young. Many princes were not as important as Eunuch Wu in the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor's heart. Princes, please keep your prince seals and prince badges. Eunuch Wu waved his hand, and 17 square prince seals and interspatial rings slowly flew into the prince's hands. The sixth prince caught the prince seal and glanced at it. There was a 6 written on it. Then he sank his consciousness into the interspatial ring, took out 10 prince badges, and distributed them to the 10 princes of Yi Xian. Each prince seal is connected to the 10 prince badges. At this time, the 10 prince badges don't have any draconic luck, and the prince seal's draconic luck is equivalent to the sum of the 10 prince badges. Drip your blood to bind it to you immediately. If the prince badges are destroyed in the secret realm, you will be teleported out immediately. At that time, there will be experts who will treat your injuries. Eunuch Wu said. Everyone present understood this. The purpose of the Crown Prince trial was to obtain draconic luck and obtain a ranking in the end. Immediately, everyone bound their prince badges to them. Then they realized that they couldn't keep their prince badges in their interspatial rings. They could only carry them with them. In the first stage of the Crown Prince trial, the Battle of Draconic Luck, there will be a lot of inheritances and draconic luck. You can also snatch the prince badges of others. After Eunuch Wu finished speaking, he stepped aside. The door of the palace behind him slowly opened. The entrance to the secret realm appeared. This is the secret realm of the Sunflame Imperial family. There are many inheritances and opportunities inside. Once you enter, you will be teleported to various places. You must be careful. When necessary, you can use your draconic luck, the sixth prince said softly. The 10 princes of Yi Xian nodded silently. All the princes gave out their respective tasks. At this time, Eunuch Wu added, the Battle of Draconic Luck this time will be semi-closed. Only the scene of the inheritance land will be seen. Also, no killing is allowed. Those who kill on purpose will be eliminated and their draconic luck will be cleared. Although only the scene of the inheritance land would be seen, this didn't mean anything. Since Eunuch Wu said that killing was not allowed, the imperial family must have a way to see what was happening inside the secret realm. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. It seemed that he wouldn't be able to show his skills in this stage. However, he caught a key point in Eunuch Wu's words. Those who killed on purpose would be eliminated. However, it was inevitable that there would be casualties in a battle between two people. Hence, the rule should be that torture was not allowed. The Battle of Draconic Luck will last for 3 days. After 3 days, all of you will be teleported out. Alright, the first prince's team can enter now. Eunuch Wu suddenly turned his head and looked at the 11 people in the corner. The first prince was very cold. He was probably around 35 years old. He stood there and watched as his team of 10 entered the secret realm. Next was the second prince's team, followed by the third prince's team. Chapter 768. Remember, it's important to stay alive. The sixth prince reminded Yixian and the others when they entered the secret realm. Although they were not allowed to kill, there might be dangers in the land of inheritance. Moreover, if they were seriously injured, their combat power would be greatly reduced. Yixian and the others entered the secret realm with all their might. In the next moment, Yixian found that the people who entered the secret realm in front of him had disappeared, and he appeared in a forest. Beside him was a stone tablet with 17 rankings on it. They were the 17 princes who were ranked according to order. At this moment, Yixian tried to control his qi to fly. Sure enough, as he'd expected, he couldn't use qi to fly, and he couldn't shrink the ground into an inch. However, this secret realm was still his home ground. Then he used the Eye of Revelation to scan the surroundings. Although there were a lot of trees around, the Eye of Revelation could see through them directly. Coincidentally, Yixian saw a person. However, Yixian saw the environment in his body instead of his face, so Yixian did not know who this person was. He doesn't look strong. Yixian narrowed his eyes and directly flew over. Although the Battle of Dragon Luck had just begun, it was better for him to reduce the number of people. The middle-aged man who was targeted did not notice Yixian, and was about to move in a random direction, hoping to find an inheritance. However, at this moment, swoosh, the middle-aged man trembled when he heard the sound of something breaking through the air. He turned around and saw a cold light coming toward him. Bang! The middle-aged man blocked with his long sword, but the powerful impact directly sent him flying. Then a black shadow attacked and directly cut off his left arm. The interspatial ring instantly fell into the black shadow's hand. What? The middle-aged man just realized that the black shadow had crushed the prince's token. In the next moment, he and his severed arm were directly teleported out of the secret realm. Outside the secret realm, there were other princes' teams entering the secret realm one by one. However, at this moment a person suddenly teleported out, which gave them a shock. What? Someone was teleported out so quickly? Everyone was shocked. Not all of the 17 princes had entered, but someone had already been eliminated. This speed was too fast. At this time the fifth prince rushed over and asked in shock, "Wu Tongfang, who did this?" The middle-aged man resisted the pain and shook his head. "I didn't see clearly. He was very fast, but he was only at 60% body seal. How was it possible to send a person with 70% body seal out of the mystic realm in an instant?" When the sixth prince heard this, his expression also changed. Wasn't Yixian and his team at physique seal 60%? Among all the princes present, he was probably the only one who had reached 60% body seal. Therefore, the sixth prince guessed that the person who had sent this middle-aged man out was Yixian. Good boy, swift and decisive, one less opponent. The sixth prince's face was full of smiles. However, the seventh prince and the fourth prince were also shocked. This was because they also knew that the sixth prince had a 60% body seal kid in his team. I thought the sixth prince was crazy, but it turns out that he was hiding his strength. The fourth prince thought to himself, in the secret realm, after Yixian crushed the other party's prince's token, he couldn't help but reveal a smile. He didn't expect to gain so much from the Battle of Draconic Luck. There were quite a lot of things in this ring. The Eye of Revelation is really good. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to find him. Yixian was very satisfied. He didn't know if he would be able to find the necessary items to open the Eye of Heaven in this secret realm. He randomly chose a direction and moved forward. From time to time, he would scan the surroundings with the Eye of Revelation to see if there were any places of inheritance. Roar! A few minutes after Yixian advanced, a loud roar suddenly entered his ears. He immediately used his Eye of Insight to scan the area and discovered a huge figure. It's not a human. It seems to be a quasi-supreme saint beast. Yixian squinted his eyes. The corpse of a quasi-supreme saint beast was quite precious. Hence he immediately rushed over. When he arrived, he realized that the quasi-supreme saint beast was a golden bear. With Yixian's current realm, he wouldn't be afraid even if he faced an 80% body seal expert. let alone a quasi-supreme saint beast. He held the spiritual rhino sword in his hand and slashed out, directly killing this quasi-supreme sacred beast. However, when he was about to devour the corpse, he realized that there was a wave of energy spreading out from the corpse. This is draconic luck? Yi Xian's eyes suddenly narrowed. He quickly took out the prince token. As expected, the strange energy was draconic luck. Yi Xian used the prince token to absorb all the draconic luck. So, killing monsters also gives me draconic luck. Yi Xian was very satisfied. After all, he had learned the draconic luck, and could use the draconic luck to increase his combat strength. When Yi Xian finished absorbing the draconic luck, the ranking of the 17 princes changed. The 6th prince was currently in first place. At this time, outside the secret realm, the 17 princes had already entered a palace. Together with them were the civil and military officials of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. The 6th prince's subordinate is the first to break the ranking. He's in first place. Impressive, impressive. I reckon that one of his subordinates must have killed a quasi-supreme holy beast. Everyone's perception is lowered in the secret realm. Moreover, the secret realm is terrifyingly big. It's not easy to kill a quasi-supreme saint beast. He's only in first place temporarily. We still have to see how he performs later. Indeed, the ranking at the beginning was useless. One might not be able to laugh all the way to the end. At this time, the 17 princes' subordinates had all entered the secret realm. There were a total of 170 people. No, there were only 169 people left. One of them was unlucky. Yi Xian teleported near him. Then Yi Xian kicked him out of the secret realm. In the secret realm, Yi Xian had been running for more than 10 minutes. Along the way, he didn't encounter anything special. However, at the 13th minute after he entered the secret realm, it's so hot. Yi Xian's footsteps suddenly stopped. He felt the problem around him suddenly increase. He immediately used his eye of insight and discovered that there was something strange in front of him. My perception is much weaker in this secret realm. Fortunately, I have the eye of revelation. Yi Xian sighed in his heart. At the same time, he guessed that the strange thing in front of him might be a land of inheritance. He quickly rushed over. When he arrived, he found that the strange thing was the so-called Dragon Luck Pillar. The Dragon Luck Pillar contained a large amount of draconic luck. However, what caught Yi Xian's attention wasn't the Dragon Luck Pillar, but the thing in the large pool beside it. Chapter 769. Yi Xian used the Eye of Insight to look again and discovered that there was a universe ring at the bottom of the blazing magma. He didn't care too much and took out the Prince token to absorb the draconic luck on the Dragon Luck Pillar. Then he walked to the side of the boiling pool and put his hand in. Hot! That was Yi Xian's first reaction. When he pulled his hand out, he found that his skin was red. If he soaked in the lava for a while longer, his skin and flesh would melt. Perhaps not even his bones would be left. Such a high temperature. My realm is not high enough, so I'm afraid I can't withstand it. If it's the dragon pattern golden armor, I can... Yi Xian thought to himself. However, this was the secret realm of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. If the dragon pattern golden armor appeared, he would be in trouble if someone saw it. Therefore, to be safe, Yi Xian decided to give up. However, he only gave up half of it. There might be other people around. I'll let them come and take it while I reap the benefits. Yi Xian thought to himself. Then he scanned the surroundings with his eye of revelation. Indeed, there was no one around, but he could make some noise. Boom! 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 Yi Xian began to attack the ground frantically. The bigger the commotion, the farther the sound would spread. As long as someone was near, they would be able to find him by following the temperature. After a while, Yi Xian hid in a dark corner and concealed his aura, waiting for someone to find him. Sure enough, as he expected, there was already a figure flying over in his line of sight. He's not fast. I think he's at most 75% of the body seal. Yi Xian watched as the figure flew to the side of the scorching pool. After seeing that the Draconic Luck Pillar's Draconic Luck Pillar had been taken away, he guessed that there had been a great battle here. He was still cautious and checked the surroundings. However, the perception in the secret realm was probably only 1/5 of the perception outside. Moreover, Yi Xian had concealed his aura, so he couldn't find Yi Xian. He walked to the side of the pool, probed it, and found that he could withstand it. He immediately jumped into the pool and retrieved the interspatial ring at the bottom of the pool. You took it out? Yi Xian, who was using the Eye of Revelation to check the situation, immediately charged out. Swish! A cold light flashed, followed by a crisp sound. The expert with 75% body seal reacted quickly and blocked the attack with his longsword. However, Yi Xian had already circled around the forest and swept out. Absolute annihilation. Yi Xian slashed out again. Although the power of this move wasn't as strong as Firmament Splitter, it was still better to use it sparingly. After all, he had used this move to kill the Heavenly Abundance City Lord. The expert with 75% of his body was able to block the sword, but he was unable to block the sword and had one of his arms cut off. When the arm that held the sword flew up, Yi Xian had already arrived in front of him. Hiss! Another crisp sound rang out. His opponent's wrist was cut off, and his universe ring fell into Yi Xian's hand. The expert was in despair. His right arm was cut off and his left wrist was also cut off. What else could he use to fight? By the time he reacted, Yi Xian had already torn his clothes and took out the prince token that was hidden in his chest. Thank you for your dragon luck. You can leave now. Yi Xian absorbed a small amount of dragon luck from the prince token and crushed it. In the next moment, the expert turned into a ray of white light and disappeared in front of Yi Xian. He was teleported out of the secret realm. Yi Xian remembered that this person was one of the 13th prince's subordinates. It was a pity that he ran into him. Although there isn't much dragon luck, it's better than nothing. Let me see what's in these two interspatial rings. Yi Xian muttered to himself. He first looked at the opponent's interspatial ring, but there wasn't much in it. However, the interspatial ring that the opponent took out from the scorching pool contained a lot of good stuff. The inheritance of the blazing howl sect from 100 years ago. Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. Most of the things in the interspatial ring were martial arts techniques. There were also a few rare treasures, all of which were of the fire attribute. He didn't hold back and directly copied the martial arts techniques into the devouring system. As for the rare treasures, he devoured them all. Yi Xian used a special devouring system for some of the items because many of them could strengthen one's physique. Half-step supreme being was to seal one's body with the great emperor's will to forcefully strengthen one's physique. However, this didn't count as one's physique. In the future, after sealing one's physique to 100%, one would have to undergo the supremacy tribulation. Everyone's emperor's will was sealed to the same degree. If one wanted to become a supreme being, one had to rely on one's physique and other abilities. It's a pity that I gained more experience every time I leveled up. I couldn't break through. Yi Xian sighed and shook his head, then left the place. His luck was pretty good. After eliminating both of them, he even obtained an inheritance and a large amount of dragon luck. At the same time, he also understood that the Blazing Howl sect's inheritance was an inferior inheritance. There were also middle and superior inheritances. Even princes would be tempted by superior inheritances. Every inheritance is dangerous. I can't even obtain an inferior inheritance. I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Yi Xian felt a little helpless. He was only at 60% physique ceiling, while the others were at 70% physique ceiling. Although his combat strength was strong, his vital energy had always been his weakness. Moreover, he couldn't use the dragon pattern golden armor casually here. Therefore, if he found an inheritance land, he would have to obtain dragon luck first. However, with his strength he could fight against an 80% physique ceiling expert. He could definitely guard the inheritance land. He continued to wander in the forest. With the Eye of Revelation, his insight was probably unmatched. After more than half an hour, he encountered another inheritance land. This time there were a few strange trees guarding the dragon luck pillar. Demon trees. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. Even without the Eye of Revelation, he could see that these trees were extraordinary. After all, the internal environment of these trees was different from ordinary trees. Moreover, their branches were constantly twisting, which seemed very dangerous. There's an interspatial ring beside the dragon luck pillar. Yi Xian's eyes focused on the interspatial ring beside the dragon luck pillar. At this moment, he checked the surroundings and didn't find anyone else, so he suddenly attacked. Absolute annihilation. Rays of cold light pierced through the air. Yixian directly attacked the demon trees through countless trees. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to discover the demon trees at all. After all, they didn't have the ability to see through things, let alone attack through so many trees. Rip! 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 Yixian's sword directly cut through hundreds of trees and hit a demon tree. The demon tree was severely injured, but it didn't notice Yixian. It could only silently take the attack. Chapter 770. Universal Annihilation. Slashes flew through the air and killed a devil tree in just a few rounds. In less than half a minute, all the devil trees were dead. Then Yixian quickly flew over and absorbed the draconic luck on the dragon luck pillar. He then took the interspatial ring, the inheritance of the Tsongsan sect from 200 years ago. Yixian's eyes lit up because there were a lot of treasures in the interspatial ring. I'm so close to breaking through. He sensed that he only needed one more inheritance to break through to 65% of the physique seal realm. At that time, his combat power would be able to squeeze into the top tier among the 100 people. Of course, others could also suddenly break through after obtaining the inheritance. Although I only obtained 2 low-grade inheritances, I'll be able to break through after obtaining one more. It's not too bad. Yixian left his original spot. He had a huge advantage with the Eye of Revelation, so he had to make the best use of his time. Half an hour later he found another inheritance, but this time, someone else seemed to have gotten it before him. Rumble! A series of loud noises came from the front. Yixian scanned with the Eye of Revelation and found 2 people fighting. They're not weak. They're probably at 80% of the Great Emperor Seal realm. Yixian squinted his eyes. He was wondering if he should go over and interfere. I'll hide first. I'll go out when they're almost done fighting. Yixian planned in his heart. Yixian liked to be the fisherman when the sandpiper and the clam fought. Through the Eye of Revelation, Yixian could see that the 2 people were fighting at the entrance of the cave. There was also a dragon luck pillar outside the cave. It was obviously the place of inheritance. Another advantage of the Eye of Revelation was that it could see through ordinary things and see the inside of the 2 people. However, it couldn't see through the interspatial ring. Therefore, his attention was always on the extra interspatial ring. Oh, the one with the interspatial ring seems to be stronger, Yixian observed as he approached. In any case, the perception in the secret realm was lower, so the other party would not be able to detect him. When Yixian was only 3,000 meters away from them, one of them had his prince's medallion shattered. Then he turned into a beam of white light and was sent out of the secret realm. When Yixian saw the other person disappear in an instant, he understood that it was time to make a move. Absolute annihilation. A slash tore through the air. The person who had just obtained the universe ring had just relaxed when he was frightened by this sneak attack. Clang! He hurriedly used his weapon to block it, but was knocked into the stone wall by the impact. At the same time, Yixian rushed out of the forest and attacked madly. At the same time, Yixian saw his face clearly. He was actually one of the 7th prince's subordinates. Brat, you're courting death. The gray-robed elder shouted angrily. He put away the interspatial ring and started to fight back. Haha. Members of the 7th prince's faction, get out. Yixian laughed loudly in his heart. Xia Yuni, who had beaten him up like a dog in the water, was a member of the 7th prince's faction. Although this elder was not Xia Yuni, Yixian treated him as Xia Yuni and beat him up. However, it was not easy to challenge someone 4 levels higher. Bam! 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 The two's sword chis began to clash. In terms of combat strength, Yixian was not afraid at all. Brat, I recognize you. You're a member of the 6th prince's faction. The gray-robed elder recognized Yixian. And then, Yixian squinted his eyes. Nothing. I just want to invite you out of the secret realm. The gray-robed elder sneered. Then let's see who invites who out. Yixian's eyes widened. From before until now, he'd already exchanged more than 10 blows with his opponent. If that was the case, then it would be very difficult for him to defeat his opponent. I don't care so much. Dragon blessing the universe. He made up his mind. At this moment, strength was more important. Not many people would recognize these 2 martial arts techniques. Wolf Tooth Rush. A giant wolf head rushed towards the gray-robed elder. The gray-robed elder slashed with his sword but was unable to disperse it. As a result, he was bitten by the giant wolf head. After the wolf tooth rush, it was the powerful firmament splitter. Swish! Yi Xian's sudden burst of strength caught his opponent off guard. Half of the gray-robed elder's shoulder was cut off and blood splattered everywhere. Damn it! The gray-robed elder cursed angrily as he watched the other giant wolf head bite him. The gray-robed elder was immediately immobilized by the two giant wolf heads with sharp teeth. Absolute void palm! Yi Xian quickly rushed over. His palm passed through the giant wolf heads and landed on the gray-robed elder. In the next moment, the gray-robed elder was sent flying. At the same time, Yi Xian seized the Qiankuan inheritance ring and the prince's token. Oh no! The gray-robed elder's expression changed. It was fine if the Qiankuan ring was taken away, but if the prince's token was taken away, it would be over. Although he had only encountered the first inheritance land and did not obtain much dragon luck, he was afraid that he would be eliminated if the prince's token fell into Yi Xian's hands. Gotcha! After a crisp sound, the gray-robed elder's prince's token was crushed by Yi Xian. He then turned into a ray of white light and flew out of the secret realm. Phew! Yi Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, his opponent did not use the dragon blessing in time. Otherwise, he would have wasted a lot of dragon luck. It's still a low-grade inheritance, but it's not bad. Yi Xian's eyes lit up as he heard a notification in his mind. Breakthrough. Now his body sealing degree had reached 65%. He began to check the inheritance ring and was pleasantly surprised. It's all ores. It seems to be a sect that specializes in forging. Not bad, not bad. It seems that the 3,000 wolf tooth cavalry can be upgraded. Yi Xian's lips curled up slightly. He had the blueprint to upgrade the 3,000 wolf tooth cavalry. As long as he had the materials, he could use the devouring system to upgrade them. Ding! Wolf tooth cavalry upgrade successful. Ding! Deputy long saber upgrade successful. Yi Xian used the forging materials to upgrade the 3,000 wolf tooth cavalry and deputy long saber. Deputy long saber strength has reached 60% of the Emperor's will and 40% of the 3,000 wolf tooth cavalry. Yi Xian was quite satisfied with this result. After all, this was only a low-grade inheritance. If he could obtain a mid-grade inheritance or even a high-grade inheritance, he would be able to upgrade even more. I've only been here for 2 hours and I've already obtained 3 low-grade inheritances dragon luck. The others probably only obtained 1 at most, right? Yi Xian's confidence suddenly skyrocketed. Although his eye power could not be recovered quickly, the Eye of Revelation did not consume much of his eye power. It would not be a problem to use it again after a period of time. He began to search for more inheritances. He had obtained 3 low-grade inheritances in 2 hours, but the Battle of Dragon Luck would last for 3 days. Perhaps he would find a high-grade inheritance. An hour later. Boom! Chapter 771. They're quite far away. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and followed the sound. Soon he saw 3 figures fighting. Then he realized that one of the figures was familiar. It seemed to be Qiao Bao, the mad swordsman. The mad swordsman Qiao Bao had 80% Emperor's will sealed. Like Yi Xian, he was a subordinate of the 6th prince. Yi Xian naturally had to help his teammate when he was in trouble. Yi Xian immediately charged over. Of the 2 attacking Qiao Bao, one was 80% Emperor's will sealed, while the other was 75%. If it was only one person, Qiao Bao could handle it. However, there were 2 of them, which was a little difficult. I have no choice. Draconic Fortune. Qiao Bao, who was holding a broadsword, directly used his trump card. The draconic luck in the prince token in his arms was immediately activated. In an instant, Qiao Bao's strength skyrocketed, and his attacks were very fierce. We'll use it too. The warrior with 80% Emperor's will sealed shouted. Just now, they were evenly matched with Qiao Bao without the draconic luck. Now that they used the draconic luck, they were still in a stalemate. Now it was time to see who had more draconic luck. However, what they did not expect was that a figure suddenly appeared from the side. Wolf Fang charge. Yi Xian used his trump card. The giant wolf head directly bit the warrior with 75% Emperor's will sealed. Then, he used an extremely powerful firmament splitter. In order to make his opponent unable to block it, Yixian also added Draconic Luck, which increased his attack power to another level. Swish! The warrior's arm was instantly chopped off. In this situation, it was difficult to get the prince token, so Yixian did not care too much and directly threw a punch. Gotcha! The punch landed on the opponent's prince token. The token shattered, and the opponent was instantly eliminated. Although the prince token shattered, the Draconic Luck inside would not be deducted. After the Draconic Luck battle, they could still get a new prince token, but there was no Draconic Luck inside. Yixian did not care about this bit of dragon luck. After sending the other party out of the mystic realm, Yixian obtained the other party's yin and yang ring. The other party had also obtained a low-grade legacy, so Yixian had benefited from it. It's you. When Qiao Bao saw Yixian, his eyes couldn't help but emit a bright light. Yixian was on the same side as him. This person seems to be a subordinate of the fourth prince. Yixian recognized him, as did the person he had just sent out. They were both subordinates of the fourth prince. However, none of this mattered anymore. Brat, let's send him out together. Qiao Bao the Wild Blade shouted. All right. Yixian immediately agreed. However, his opponent reacted very quickly. When Yixian rushed towards him, he actually punched himself in the chest, shattering the prince's token. The next moment, he was sent out of the mystic realm. He had only lost the qualification to enter the first round by shattering the prince's token, but his dragon luck was still there. If he was captured by Yixian, his dragon luck would be taken away. You ran fast enough. Yixian snorted. Brat, thank you so much. Qiao Bao cupped his fists and thanked him. What about the legacy's yin and yang ring? Yixian asked. When I came here, the legacy was already gone. Those two thought I was the one who took it, so they surrounded me. Qiao Bao shook his head. Yixian frowned slightly. He scanned Qiao Bao with his eye of revelation. Indeed, Qiao Bao only had one yin and yang ring. Since that's the case, I'll take my leave first. Yixian cupped his fists at Qiao Bao and left immediately. Qiao Bao originally wanted to team up with Yixian, but he decided against it. After all, there were many legacies here. Although it would be safer to travel together, they would have to share half of the meat with each other. It was better to travel alone. The size of the mystic realm also exceeded Yixian's expectations. He had been moving in one direction, but after running for a few hours he still could not see the end. It was still a forest. Yixian was a little helpless. However, he had only been in the mystic realm for less than half a day. Even if he was helpless, he could only continue. As he walked, the sky gradually darkened. The forest at night was filled with the constant chirping of insects. Those dangerous quasi-supreme sacred beasts had also come out to look for food. However, with his eye of revelation, Yixian could instantly spot these dangers. Whoosh! 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 At this moment, a few slashes suddenly rose into the sky, illuminating the surroundings. Yixian stopped in his tracks and frowned. This seemed to be a signal. Of course, it could also be deliberately sent by someone to lure people over so that they could snatch the Draconic Luck and Universe Rings. With my current strength, I can squeeze into the front line. With the Eye of Revelation, I can find whoever is hiding. Yixian decided to take a look. Night was more suitable for him, who had the Shadow Leopard bloodline, to conceal himself. His advantage was much greater than during the day. However, when he approached, he realized that it was not what he expected. There were more than 10 people gathered beside a Draconic Luck pillar. They were not fighting and seemed to be waiting for someone. Could it be that they encountered a middle-grade inheritance and felt that they did not have enough manpower? Yixian guessed in his heart. Otherwise, how could there be so many people gathered here? One had to know that when they entered, they were scattered by the teleportation array. Therefore, there must be many people from different camps. Whoosh! 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 They were still sending signals upwards, trying to attract people over. At this moment, Yixian suddenly looked and found a familiar figure among these people. Before entering, Yixian had memorized the internal environment of the 9 people on his side. Therefore, he could recognize her. It seems to be the Poison Witch. Yixian guessed in his heart. The Poison Witch was an expert recruited by the 6th prince. She was skilled in using poison and had already sealed 80% of her body. However, if not for the sixth prince's reminder, the others would have thought that she was an ordinary martial artist. It seems that they have indeed encountered a middle-grade inheritance. Now, Yi Xian could be sure that they were gathering because they could not find a middle-grade inheritance. At that moment he walked out of the room. "Oh, another person is here," a martial artist said. Yi Xian walked out of the forest and glanced over. "Young man, come here." The poison witch's eyes lit up as she shouted at Yi Xian. Although Yi Xian did not trust the others, he could only trust the poison witch in this mystic realm. After all, they belonged to the same camp. Yi Xian quickly walked over and asked, "Is this a middle-grade inheritance?" "I'm not very sure." Previously, a martial artist with 75% of his body sealed entered, but he died. The poison witch shook her head. "He died?" Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. "He died. He was struck to death by the strange black shadow in this poison cave. Although the wound was not fatal, he was poisoned to death," the poison witch said. Poison Cave. Chapter 772. Compared to the others, Yi Xian was more resistant to poison, so he had a higher chance of survival. He looked around and found that the people around him were around 70% and 75% physique sealing realm. Besides the poison matriarch, there were two other 80% physique sealing realm experts. Including Yi Xian, there were a total of 13 people. The people around saw that Yi Xian was only at 65% physique sealing realm, so they did not pay much attention to him. However, the mystic realm was so big that it was not bad to be able to gather 10 people. "Everyone, should we continue to wait or go in together?" a middle-aged man with long hair asked. He was also at 80% physique sealing realm, the same realm as the poison matriarch. "Forget it. Let's go in together. It's not easy to gather so many people. Let's go in. Everyone prepare your prince tokens. If there's any danger, just crush them. There are experts outside who can heal you. I think I should back out. I'll look for other inheritances." Someone decided to give up. After all, there were still more than 2 days left. There was no need to stay in this middle-grade land of inheritance. However, the moment he turned around, someone near him suddenly attacked, severely injured him, and took away his interspatial ring. "You?" The severely injured person pointed at the other person in shock. However, in the next moment his prince token was crushed and he was teleported out. This scene was witnessed by everyone else, but no one made a sound. "Kid, remember to be careful when you enter," the poison matriarch reminded him softly. Yi Xian nodded silently. The poison matriarch looked dangerous, but she was in the same camp as him. Moreover, the scene in the land of inheritance would be projected, so the poison matriarch would definitely not attack him. Otherwise, the sixth prince would definitely not let him off. There are only 12 people left. I don't think they want to stay together. Let's draw lots to enter. The middle-aged man with long hair suggested. Okay. Let's draw lots according to camp. There were a total of 10 camps here. Besides Yi Xian and the poison matriarch, there were also 2 people in a group. The other 8 people were acting alone. After the drawing of lots, Yi Xian and the poison matriarch were the 5th batch to enter. Each batch was separated by half a minute. Damn it! The warrior who got first place cursed in his heart. He knew that if he did not enter, he would be eliminated instantly. He gathered his courage and walked in. The second batch would enter 30 seconds after him. Yi Xian and the poison witch were the 5th batch. That was pretty good. At this moment, the 2 of them walked to the side and whispered to each other. "Kid, I heard that when you were at 55% body seal, you defeated a 70% body seal. Now that you are at 65% body seal, can you deal with an 80% body seal?" Poison matriarch whispered. "Senior, you're thinking of?" Yi Xian suddenly raised his eyebrows and his eyes lit up. "Apart from me, there are 2 other 8th grade physique sealers. One is 3rd and the other is 8th. When the time comes, the 2 of us can work together and clear out everyone behind us," Poison Witch said. "Sure." Yi Xian nodded. They were the 5th batch to enter, and there were still quite a few people behind them. They could very well give up on this middle-grade land of inheritance and plunder the dragon luck and treasures of others. Rumble. There was quite a commotion coming from the poison cave. Seemed like someone was fighting. That black shadow should be a poison wind mantis. It is extremely fast. When the time comes, I will set up a poison array. You be careful. Poison Witch said softly. Yixian nodded to show that he understood. Soon it was their turn. Because the others did not know that Poison Witch was proficient in using poison, they only treated her as an ordinary warrior and did not pay much attention to her. Yixian and Poison Witch entered the poison cave. Their resistance to poison was the strongest among everyone present, so they were the safest. They carefully entered the cave for more than 10 seconds, then chose a spot to set up a poison array. You be careful. I will set up a poison array. Everyone who enters will be poisoned. Poison Witch said as she took out a large pile of items and began to set up the array. Yixian was on guard and used his Eye of Revelation to scan the surroundings. In 10 seconds, Poison Witch could easily set up several poison arrays. It was not a problem to deal with the people behind them. Whoosh whoosh. Suddenly, a gust of wind entered Yixian's ears, causing his body to tremble. It's coming, Yixian reminded. His eyes widened as he saw a black shadow rushing towards him. Wolf Fang charge. He immediately stabbed with his sword. A giant wolf head rushed out and bit the black shadow. As expected, it was a black mantis about 1.5 meters tall. Its entire body contained a large amount of poison. Unfortunately, this poison had no effect on Yixian's true qi. Firmament splitter. Yixian directly slashed with his sword and killed the poison wind mantis. This poison cave was very dark, and the poison wind mantis liked to hide in dark corners and wait for its prey to enter. When the time came, it could directly launch a sneak attack and poison its prey. Unfortunately, Yixian had the Eye of Revelation and was not weak. Thus, this poison wind mantis was not a threat to him. The quasi-supreme sacred beasts in the secret realm also had dragon luck. Yixian collected the poison wind mantis's corpse and dragon luck after it died and continued to protect Poison Witch. Kid, you are not bad. If the two of us work together, we might be able to obtain the inheritance of this poison cave. Poison Witch said as she set up the array. She was originally a poison user, and this middle-tier land of inheritance was related to poison. Thus it had a huge appeal to her. Yixian actually had the same idea. However, it was better to eliminate the remaining people first. The 3 poison arrays have been set up. All of them are non-lethal poison arrays. Except for that person with 80% body seal, no one can last more than 3 seconds in here. Poison Witch said. Yixian scanned the area with his Eye of Revelation. Although he could not see anything on the surface, there were dangers on the ground, walls, ceiling, and even the air was the same. Kid, this bottle of pills is specially made by me. Put one in your mouth in case you need it. Poison Witch threw a bottle of antidote pills to Yixian. Although they were on the same side, Yixian still took out a pill to test it. After confirming that it was indeed an antidote pill, he followed her instructions and put one in his mouth. If he was accidentally poisoned, he would immediately swallow it. 30 seconds had passed. That meant that the 6th batch of people should be coming in now. Drip. Poison Witch and Yixian held their breaths and listened attentively. Some water droplets fell from the ceiling, but the sound could not cover the 6th person's footsteps. He's entered the array. Poison Witch said softly. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. If it's the 6th person, he shouldn't be able to withstand my poison array. Kid, go and take his things. Poison Witch said again after 3 seconds. In fact, Yixian did not hear any footsteps. Although he had the Eye of Revelation, he could not see through the stone wall. All right. Yixian nodded and quietly went over. As expected, there was a person lying in the middle of the poison array. He could not move and his eyes were fixed on him. Chapter 773. Tisk Tsk. Get out. Yixian took the man's interspatial ring and prince's medallion. After putting them away, he crushed the medallion. The unlucky man turned into a ray of white light and disappeared from Yixian's sight. Before they entered, Yixian had discussed with Poison Witch. They would each take the interspatial ring and draconic luck. This time it was Yixian, and next time it would be Poison Witch. After another 30 seconds, the 7th batch of people came in. Just like the previous batch, he was paralyzed on the ground by the 3 great poison arrays. He was like a corpse. This time, Poison Witch dashed over and took his interspatial ring and prince's medallion. They were the 6th batch to enter. 5 people had entered before them, including an 8th-degree physique seal expert. In other words, there were 5 more people behind them. One of them was a 2-man team, and the other was an 8th-degree physique seal expert. The 7th and 8th batches had been dealt with by them. Next up would be the 2 people from the 9th batch. 275% physique seal experts still can't resist my poison arrays. Poison Witch thought to herself. 30 seconds later, they heard footsteps again. This time there were 2 people. It's poisonous. Suddenly, a low shout came from the cave, but in the next moment, the 2 of them fell down. Yixian and Poison Witch weren't nervous. It didn't matter if the people outside heard them. Of course, the poison cave was poisonous. Now that the 2 teams had been eliminated, the last person would be the 8th-degree physique seal expert. The last person is the 4th prince's subordinate. I can't tell how strong he is, but he might be hiding his strength. He's an 85% physique seal expert. If he doesn't get hit, we'll attack immediately. Poison Witch said. 85% physique seal expert, huh? Yixian narrowed his eyes. He felt that the other party was an 85% physique seal expert. Otherwise, they could have finished off the remaining 4 people after he and Poison Witch had entered. Why would they let them in? Of course, it was possible that the other party wanted them to scout the way. After all, middle-grade inheritances were more attractive. They're here. A series of cautious footsteps entered Yixian and Poison Witch's ears. They held their breaths and prepared to attack at any time. The last 8th-degree physique seal expert was very careful. He was afraid that the people in front of him would hide and attack him. Soon he entered the poison array. Poison? That person immediately reacted and quickly retreated. There were many poisonous creatures in this poison cave, so he took an antidote pill in advance. However, this poison array was set up by the poison matriarch, so ordinary antidote pills were useless. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and quickly left the poison array. Attack! Poison Witch charged. And rushed she charged. Yixian followed. The 2 of them had already discussed that if the other party did not enter the poison array, they would defeat the other party with lightning speed. They of the dragon and dragon's heaven's dragon used. Wolf's charge. 10,000 poison palm. The of the dragon's dragon of it dragon. Of them. Is the 8th-degree physique seal expert's eyes flashed. Since they could use martial arts, they must be human. His aura surged, and the prince's token in his arms glowed with a dazzling white light. 3 rays of white light illuminated the entire poison cave. It's you. The 8th-degree physique seal expert noticed Yixian. No, he wasn't 8th-degree physique seal expert. Like Poison Witch had guessed, he was hiding his strength. His true strength was 85%. But so what if he was 85%? Roar! The wolf's head bit the long-haired middle-aged man's thigh. In an instant, the wolf's fangs pierced through his thigh, causing him to bleed. Bang! Poison Witch's palm hit the long-haired middle-aged man's chest. She was a master of poison. Even her vital energy was poisonous. Her palm hit poisoned the middle-aged man. The long-haired middle-aged man cursed inwardly. He quickly shattered the wolf's head with a punch and prepared to retreat. Unfortunately, Yixian and the poison matriarch had already charged over from the left and right. Firmament Fissure. 10,000 poisons palm. The long-haired young man was outnumbered. Although he blocked Yixian's attack, he was hit by another palm. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. His chest was starting to turn black. The poison in Poison Witch's vital energy had already entered his body. Hand over the prince's token, or you will die in 3 breaths. Poison Witch shouted. The middle-aged man's face darkened. He reached into his pocket, but he didn't choose to compromise. As long as he crushed the prince's token, the experts outside the secret realm would quickly heal his injuries. This way, the 4th prince's dragon luck wouldn't go to the 6th prince. Oh no! Yixian, who saw through his intentions, quickly slashed out with his sword and chopped off his left arm. At the same time, the middle-aged man crushed the prince's token in his hand. Whoosh! In a flash of white light, the long-haired middle-aged man disappeared, leaving behind a severed arm. Poison Witch was stunned. She didn't expect her opponent to choose not to compromise. He was playing with his life. At this moment, a breath had passed since the middle-aged man was teleported out. Poison Witch's poison was very powerful, could kill someone in 3 breaths. If the middle-aged man couldn't detoxify the poison in 2 breaths, he would be dead. However, Poison Witch's 3 breaths was a little exaggerated. After all, her opponent was at 85% physique ceiling, while Poison Witch was at 85% physique ceiling. 2 breaths. 3 breaths. Yi Xian and Poison Witch stayed in place. 3 breaths had passed but nothing happened. Phew! Poison Witch heaved a sigh of relief, but in the next moment she heard a voice. The opponent is dead. You have been judged as intentional homicide. You will be eliminated immediately, and your dragon luck will be removed. Whoosh! A white light flashed in front of Yi Xian, and Poison Witch disappeared instantly. F***ck Xian was shocked. Poison Witch's prince's token was not crushed, but she was suddenly teleported out. This meant that the long-haired middle-aged man didn't survive, and Poison Witch was judged as intentional homicide, so she was teleported out as well. Intentional homicide would be eliminated immediately, and their dragon luck would be removed. This punishment was considered good. After all, he didn't have to pay with his life. In fact, Yi Xian was afraid that he and Poison Witch would be teleported out of the secret realm together. Fortunately, it was only Poison Witch. What a pity. The 6th prince also lost a capable person and his dragon luck was removed. Yi Xian sighed in his heart. Fortunately, it was only Poison Witch's dragon luck that was removed. Moreover, the long-haired middle-aged man was the 4th prince's man. With his death, the 4th prince would only have 9 people in the next round. Chapter 774. Now Yi Xian was the last person to enter the poison cave. The Poison Witch had been teleported out, so he could only explore the poison cave alone. Let me see how many good things you have in this middle-grade inheritance. Yi Xian turned around and continued to explore. There were many poisonous creatures in the poison cave, but Yi Xian had the Eye of Revelation, so he could easily avoid these dangers. Not long after, he encountered a fork in the road. He randomly chose a path and encountered a second poisonous wind mantis. This poisonous wind mantis was stronger than the previous one, but it was still no match for Yi Xian. It was easily killed, and its corpse was devoured, and its dragon luck was absorbed. I should have a lot of dragon luck. Yi Xian was pleased. He had received 2 people's dragon luck, and those 2 people had also received 1 or 2 low-grade inheritances, so they had all gathered on him. However, not long after Yi Xian entered, a loud sound entered everyone's ears. Someone found a high-grade inheritance. What? This sentence shocked Yi Xian. High-grade inheritance. The amount of dragon luck on the dragon luck pillars outside each land of inheritance varied. Low-grade inheritance lands had the least, followed by middle-grade inheritance lands, and high-grade inheritance lands naturally had the most. Not to mention the inheritances, just the dragon luck pillar alone probably contained a large amount of dragon luck. At this moment outside the secret realm. Oh, which prince is this black-robed person working for? What a fortune! This person is skinny. Could it be a woman? She seems very powerful. She's at least an expert with 85% physique ceiling realm, maybe even 90%. I remember that she's working for the 7th prince, right? A group of ministers discussed softly, and many of them focused their attention on the 7th prince. The 7th prince glanced at the dragon luck ranking nearby, and found that he had already reached the top. He immediately smiled and said, "That's right. She's working for me." After hearing his answer, the ministers focused their attention on the image of the secret realm again. At this moment, the black-robed woman had already entered the land of inheritance. Following that, her strength shocked everyone. This is the inheritance of the Celestial Fist sect from the ancient Sage dynasty. So, it is the Heavenly Fist sect. That pair of Heavenly Fist puppets is terrifyingly strong. I did not expect that this black-robed woman could easily avoid them and obtain the Cosmos Ring. Oh, she obtained the method to control the Heavenly Fist puppet. What a windfall. I actually obtained a high-grade inheritance. Oh, that's a martial arts seed. Could it be the Heavenly Fist sect's secret skill, the Heaven-Shaking Fist? The ministers were all shocked, and so were the princes. The seventh prince did not expect that the black-robed woman could be so agile as to avoid the two powerful heavenly fist puppets and obtain the Qian Kuan ring. The saintess of the Nether Soul cult is indeed extraordinary. Not only is her physical prowess impressive, but she is also very powerful. The seventh prince licked his lips as he thought to himself. He had to get first place in this trial by fire. Only the champion could become the crown prince, the future emperor of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. When the black-robed woman obtained the Heavenly Fist sex inheritance, Yi Xian had already entered deep into the poison cave. A corpse? Yi Xian's eyes flashed as he saw a corpse in front of him. It was the fifth batch of people who had entered earlier. This person's prince token and Qian Kuan ring were still there, but he had died a horrible death. His entire stomach was empty as if he had been eaten by some kind of poison. Seeing this, Yi Xian immediately scanned the surroundings with his eye of revelation. Although he did not find anything, he found a few small holes in the wall. Just in case, he decided not to go over. Come here. Yi Xian used the dual space and pushed the corpse over. Then he put away the prince token and Qian Kuan ring. Gotcha! He absorbed the draconic luck in the prince token. In the next moment, the corpse turned into a ray of white light and disappeared. Then, he released another puppet and ordered it to move forward. Poof! Suddenly, a black shadow flew out of a small hole and instantly pierced through the puppet. This is... Yi Xian, who had activated his eye of revelation, captured the petite voice. He felt like he had seen this scene before. Devouring beast. Yi Xian's eyes widened. He did not expect to encounter another devouring beast. Previously, he had found a devouring beast in one of the Qian Kuan rings. This time, he had found one again. Advancement point, here I come. Yi Xian's eyes lit up. He released another puppet and ordered it to move forward. Pooh! The little devourer snake came out again, but this time Yi Xian slashed out with his sword. Firmament fissure. Hiss! The circular slash cut open the devourer's head, and the entire corpse crashed into the stone wall. Yi Xian hurriedly rushed forward and collected the devourer beast's corpse. Ding! Host has devoured a devouring beast's corpse. Obtained 1 advancement point. The system prompted. This was truly a pleasant surprise. Who would have thought that he would encounter a devouring beast in the secret grounds? This was much more valuable than an intermediate legacy. I'll keep this advancement point for now. Yi Xian thought to himself. Now that he had the Gemini bloodline, he could spend 5 advancement points to create another doppelganger. However, Yi Xian had already sealed 65% of his body with the Great Emperor's will. When he reached 100%, he would have to undergo the Supremacy Tribulation. The Supremacy Tribulation was extremely powerful. Not even 1 out of 10 half supremacies would be able to successfully pass it. Hence, Yi Xian guessed that when he reached 100% of his body seal, the chance of a breakthrough would appear again. When he reached the breakthrough, he would merge with his clone and gain a 10% boost in strength. Then, when he advanced to the Gemini bloodline, his strength boost would be increased to 20%. This was Yi Xian's plan. Of course, whether he could survive until he reached 100% of his body seal was still a question. Hence, he would keep this as a backup for when the time came. Then Yi Xian continued to go deeper. However, there was a dead end in front of him. He had no choice but to go back and enter from another path. However, when he was halfway through, the Poison King's inheritance. A burst of laughter suddenly came from the depths of the poison cave. Yi Xian stopped in his tracks and cursed inwardly. This voice seemed to belong to the 80% physique seal expert who had entered first. It seemed that the other party had obtained the intermediate legacy. The Poison King's inheritance? Yi Xian heard the voice but did not know who the Poison King was. However, to be able to obtain the intermediate legacy, he must have a lot of wealth. At this time, a strong aura suddenly came from the depths of the poison cave. Someone had broken through. Dual poison heart pill, awesome. An excited voice came from the depths of the poison cave. Dual poison heart pill? Chapter 775. The dual poison heart attack pill was an elixir made from 2 deadly poisons. Could help a person break through quickly. However, the ingredients for this elixir were very difficult to collect and the refinement process was very strict. If the refinement failed and the dosage was wrong, the person who took it would immediately die. What a pity that it was eaten. Yixian felt a little helpless. At this moment he suddenly heard footsteps. It was that person walking out from the depths. At once, he hurriedly hid himself. His opponent was only at 80% physique seal. After taking the dual poison heart attack pill, he broke through to 85% physique seal. Yixian could still defeat him with a sneak attack. The footsteps were getting closer and closer. Yixian held his breath, waiting for his opponent to appear before him. He would immediately attack. He's here. Yixian heard the commotion. He gripped the telepathic sword in his hand tightly and stabbed it in a certain direction. Whoosh whoosh. The sound of something breaking through the air rang out. A giant wolf had pounced at his opponent. However, his opponent reacted quickly and dodged the wolf fangs. How dare you sneak attack me? You don't know what's good for you. The person shouted angrily and swung his sword at Yixian. Yixian saw that his sneak attack had failed, so he could only use force. There was a difference of 4 realms, but with his bloodline it was not a problem to deal with him. Bam! 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 The sound of their true chi colliding echoed throughout the poison cave. However, Yixian did not notice that a black scorpion the size of an index finger was rapidly approaching him. Kid, I have the Poison King's inheritance. His opponent snorted coldly. So what? Yixian raised an eyebrow. He did not understand why his opponent would suddenly tell him the truth, but in the next moment he understood. Suddenly, something sharp pierced Yixian's foot. He looked down and saw that it was a black scorpion the size of an index finger. Yixian had never heard of the Poison King, but he had the ability to control poisonous creatures. This martial artist had the Poison King's inheritance, so he naturally had this ability as well. Not good. Yixian's expression darkened. He felt his entire foot being paralyzed. Ding! Host has been poisoned. Detoxification beginning. He quickly swallowed the detoxification pill in his mouth. The poison which had set up a non-lethal formation, so the detoxification pill in his mouth was the one to remove the paralysis. However, what was even worse was still to come. Yixian's eye of insight swept over and discovered that a large amount of poison had suddenly surged out from the stone wall. Poisonous scorpions, snakes, centipedes, and all kinds of poisonous creatures. And the expert who had obtained the Poison King's inheritance said coldly. Yixian's face darkened. He actually wanted to run, but his path of retreat was already covered by those poisonous insects. Furthermore, he couldn't fly or shrink the ground into an inch, so how could he escape? At that moment, the poison in his body had actually been neutralized. However, he was pretending to be paralyzed. You don't know what's good for you. Bite him. The Poison King's inheritor snorted. He immediately had one of the poisonous creatures near Yixian's feet crawl up Yixian's body and bite him. The bite was not painful, but this poisonous creature was a 100-pain centipede. Being bitten by it would cause heart-wrenching pain. After Yixian was bitten, he immediately felt immense pain. However, not long after, the pain disappeared without a trace and was removed by the bloodline of the divine tree of life. Sir, give me something more powerful. Yixian grinned, holding the prince's token in his hand. How can he be fine? The Poison King's inheritor was shocked. At this moment, there were more than a dozen different poisonous creatures around Yixian. There were more than 1,000 of them. In addition, the only way out had already been sealed off by his poison. It was a slow passage, so Yixian wouldn't be able to escape even if he had wings. The Poison King's inheritor was slightly surprised. Then he smiled playfully and said, "Since you want to play, I'll play with you." He immediately controlled a more poisonous creature to bite Yixian. Yixian felt dizzy after being bitten. However, the effect only lasted for a second before it was relieved by the divine tree of life bloodline. Why is this kid so weird? The Poison King's inheritor was a little helpless. He controlled another poisonous creature to bite Yixian. However, the effect only lasted for a second or two. Yixian was alive and kicking again as if nothing had happened. My resistance to poison is getting stronger. Yixian narrowed his eyes. In fact, he had a way to escape the poison cave. That was to use the dragon-patterned golden armor. The dragon-patterned golden armor could cover him completely. These poisonous creatures would not be able to enter. At the same time, as long as he used the dragon pattern golden armor, this person would definitely be killed by his sword. The dragon pattern golden armor has too many implications. If I'm recognized, I might be killed. If not, I might lose my qualification. It's better not to use it. Yixian thought to himself. After all, he had killed the city lord of Tianfeng City. The latter had both an official position and a noble title. If he was recognized, he would be accused of killing an official of the Sunflame Holy Dynasty. Although he had evidence in his devouring space, the seventh prince was the backer of the ghost cult. If the evidence was not recognized, he would be in trouble. After all, the evidence was obtained from the vice city lord of Tianfeng City. Moreover, the vice city lord was already dead. There was no evidence. The evidence might be said to be fabricated. Kid, how did you become immune to these poisons? At this moment, the Poison King's inheritor could not help but ask. He had obtained the Poison King's inheritance. Those who use poison were most afraid of poison experts. Yixian was right in front of him. He did not move at all, but he could detoxify himself. He was very curious about this body constitution. I'll tell you after I'm bitten by all the poisonous creatures. Yixian grinned. Humph, as you wish. The Poison King's inheritor snorted. However, how would he know that Yixian had the bloodline of the divine tree of life and could detoxify himself quickly? A few seconds later, all the poisonous creatures left a mark on Yixian's body. At the same time, Yixian was immune to all the poisonous creatures present. To be on the safe side, he scanned with the eye of revelation. He did not miss anything and was immune to all the poisonous creatures. Kid, how did you do it? The Poison King's inheritor asked. Yixian held the spiritual rhino sword tightly and smiled. It's simple. Because I am immune to all poisons. Whoosh! Before he could finish his sentence, he had already made his move. The Poison King's inheritor had been on guard. Naturally, he would not be hit. At the same time, he controlled the poisonous creatures to attack Yixian. However, Yixian was already immune to the poison of these poisonous insects. These poisonous insects no longer posed any threat to him. Chapter 776. Yixian's expression was cold. He had taken advantage of the fact that his opponent did not know about his tree of life bloodline to increase his poison resistance. The disadvantage had turned into a tie in an instant. Damn it, this brat is not afraid of poison anymore. The Poison King's inheritor cursed. Boom! 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 Yixian endured the bites of the poisonous insects while fighting with the Poison King's inheritor. The two of them weren't too far apart in strength, and the entire poison cave was filled with activity as they fought fiercely. Brat, take this. The Poison King's inheritor suddenly took out a bag of poisonous powder and was about to throw it at Yixian. You dare to show off your poisonous powder? You're courting death. Yixian's eyes lit up. This was an opportunity for him. Gravity space, wind space. Before the Poison King's inheritor could throw the poisonous powder, two forces pressed down on the bag of poisonous powder. Bam! With a muffled sound, the bag of poisonous powder exploded, and the poisonous powder filled the air. Hiss! The poisonous powder landed on the Poison King's inheritor's body and melted his arm along with his clothes. The Poison King's inheritor did not expect Yixian to have such a trick up his sleeve. After all, profound meaning was useless against people who had sealed more than 50% of their physique, let alone someone like him who had sealed more than 85% of his physique. However, profound meaning was useless against people, but it was still useful against things. Yixian immediately used the dual space to control the bag of poisonous powder and wrapped it around the Poison King's inheritor. The Poison King's inheritor's heart-wrenching scream echoed in the cave. He had already thrown away the long sword in his hand and was trembling in pain. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, Yixian quickly slashed twice. One cut off the interspatial ring on his opponent's arm, while the other cut off his opponent's prince token. Whoosh! The Poison King's inheritor turned into a ray of light and flew out of the secret realm. Immediately, experts came forward to help heal him. Even Yixian did not expect the battle to end so quickly. There was nothing he could do about it. Who asked his opponent to seek death? I hope he doesn't die. Besides, I didn't do it on purpose. Even if he dies, it shouldn't have anything to do with me. Yixian's heart trembled. After all, he had saved Yixian's life by sending him out of the mystic realm. Otherwise, Yixian would have been reduced to a pool of blood. Immediately, he hurried over to pick up the 2 interspatial rings in case they died. Then, he was suddenly teleported out of the mystic realm. Although he didn't obtain the other party's dragon luck, he still obtained a middle-grade inheritance. This was already a good harvest. Ding! The host has broken through. The current seal of the Great Emperor's will is at 70%. Yixian directly swallowed the good stuff inside and broke through to the next realm. Then he waited quietly for a while, but he didn't find anything happening. It seemed that the other party had either survived or died, but was thought to have reaped what he had sown. Huff huff. Yixian breathed a sigh of relief. His dragon luck was not low, and it would be a pity if it was reset to 0. More importantly, if he was eliminated, then the remaining 2 days would be wasted. Since he wasn't eliminated, he quickly found a corner and sat down. Then, he learned the skill of controlling poisonous insects in the Poison King inheritance. At this time, he had already gathered the poisonous insects in the only path. If anyone came in, the poisonous insects would instantly surge out and poison them to death. Although I wasn't in danger just now, I have to thank the Poison Witch for the antidote pill. This Poison King inheritance is not useful to me, so I'll give it to her after the Battle of Dragon Luck. Yixian thought to himself. When he was stung by the poisonous scorpion, he could have directly used the dragon-patterned golden armor. However, the Poison Witch's antidote pill resolved the crisis of his secret being exposed, so he had to thank her. Anyway, most of the content in the Poison King inheritance was about refining poison and poison arrays. Yixian had already copied it into the Devouring system. He had already devoured all the good stuff, so it didn't matter to him. What a pity. If that dual poison heart attack pill was used for a special Devouring system, I might be able to break through to the next realm once or twice. Yixian sighed helplessly. The other party's physique seal was at 80%, but after obtaining the dual poison heart attack pill, she broke through to 85% physique seal. If that pill was given to Yixian, he would have profited greatly. Then Yixian directly left the poison cave. Although he had gained the most from this trip, someone had already found a high-grade inheritance. Hence he had to hurry up. Immediately he found a ranking stone tablet nearby and took a look. The 7th prince is first, the 6th prince is second, the 4th prince is third, and the 1st prince is 4th? Yixian understood the rankings. It seemed that the person who obtained the high-grade inheritance was an expert under the 7th prince's command. At the same time, the expert who was killed by the poison which was also under the 7th prince's command. In other words, the 7th prince would only have 9 people participating in the second round. Forget it, this is only the first round anyway. Let's continue looking for the inheritance. Yixian's figure flashed and left the place. The value of a mid-grade inheritance was very high. If the dual poison heart attack pill had appeared, then the other mid-grade inheritances would probably be even more valuable. Even mid-grade inheritances were so valuable, let alone high-grade inheritances. Yixian estimated that by the end of the Battle of Draconic Luck, there would be many experts with 90% physique seal, or even 95% physique seal. Hence he could not fall behind too much. A day passed quickly. In this day, Yixian found more than 10 low-grade inheritances, but he did not find a single mid-grade inheritance. At this time, more than half of the Battle of Draconic Luck had passed, and there was only 1 day left. It's been almost 2 days. I estimate that there are at most 50 people left, and they are all experts. Yixian was still wandering in the forest and he was still at 70% physique seal. He had no choice as it was too difficult for him to break through. At this moment, the second high-grade inheritance has been found. Suddenly, a voice entered Yixian's ears, and his body trembled. The second high-grade inheritance. 2 high-grade inheritances in 2 days. The probability is not low. I estimate that there are no more than 5 high-grade inheritances in the entire secret realm. Yixian narrowed his eyes. He remembered that he was very close to the ranking stone tablet, so he immediately went over to take a look. Today, the 4th prince's dragon luck was at the top. The 2nd was the 7th prince, the 3rd was the 6th prince, and the 4th was the eldest prince. Damn it, the sixth prince is third. Yixian was a little helpless. He represented the sixth prince, but he did not expect to be ranked third. However, he felt that the eldest prince was a little strange, because the eldest prince's team was very strong. All 10 of them were at 80% physique seal and above. When they entered the secret realm, they were already at 90% physique seal, but they were ranked last. This could only mean that the eldest prince's team was very unlucky. Except for these 4 people, the rest of the princes did not catch Yixian's attention. Chapter 777. I have to hurry. If I can find a high-grade inheritance, the dragon luck might be able to help the sixth prince return to first place. Yixian hurriedly made his move. However, he had only taken a few steps when a figure entered his sight. This person. Yixian's eyes flashed. He felt that this figure was somewhat familiar. He thought about it carefully. Is that Xia Yuni? Yixian raised an eyebrow. Xia Yuni was the old man who had beaten him up like a dog. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Yixian was pleasantly surprised. Previously, he was not strong enough and could only be chased around by Xia Yuni like a dog. Today, however, he had the strength to fight back. Xia Yuni sprinted through the forest. Yixian saw that his speed wasn't fast, and wasn't much faster than the Poison King's inheritor from back then. It seemed that his luck wasn't good either, and he didn't obtain any good inheritances. If I kill you, my dragon luck will be erased and I will be eliminated. This time I will collect some interest. Yixian was ready to make his move. However, in the next moment he felt a little strange because Xia Yuni was sprinting in a certain direction without stopping. He seemed to be in a hurry. This confused Yixian, so he decided to follow Xia Yuni for a while to see what he was up to. Xia Yuni was very fast. Yixian followed him. He had to follow him and make sure that he was not discovered by Xia Yuni. About half an hour later, Xia Yuni emerged from the forest. There was a long canyon in front of him. There were already several figures at the entrance of the canyon. There are 6 people? Yixian raised an eyebrow. It seemed that Xia Yuni had a special method. Among the 6 people, Yixian recognized one of them. It was the 6th prince's personal guard, Yang Qi. The other 5 were experts under the command of the 1st prince, the 4th prince, and the 7th prince. If Yixian was included, there were 2 experts under the 4th prince. At this moment, Yixian suddenly had a flash of inspiration. There were so many experts. Could this be the upper-tier inheritance that had just been discovered? Chief Steward Xia, so it's you. A blue-clothed middle-aged man shouted. He had used a special method to bring Xia Yuni over. Xia Yuni ran over and glanced at the scattered people in the surroundings. Is this a high-grade inheritance? The blue-robed middle-aged man nodded and said in a low voice, That's right, I discovered this inheritance first. However, I tried to obtain it once, and I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to obtain it by myself. Thus, I attracted some people over after obtaining the Dragon Luck Pillar. The reason why he was not surrounded was because he had obtained a middle-grade inheritance and broken through to 90% physique sealing realm. With a large amount of draconic luck, even if the people present worked together, they would not be able to eliminate him. After the others saw Xia Yuni, their faces turned gloomy. This blue-clothed middle-aged man's strength was exceptional. Now that Xia Yuni was added, it would be even more difficult to deal with. Suddenly, another person walked out of the forest. Oh, there's another one. The blue-clothed middle-aged man saw Yixian slowly walking out of the forest through Xia Yuni's figure. Xia Yuni turned around and did not pay much attention when he saw that it was just a brat at 70% physique sealing realm. He would not associate Yixian with the person who killed his grandson. After all, that person was only at 45% physique sealing realm. The difference was too great. Yang Qi, who was leaning against the stone wall, saw Yixian and his eyes flashed. However, when he thought of Yixian's strength, he felt slightly helpless. Brat, this is a high-grade inheritance. You won't be able to help, Yang Qi said to Yixian. That's not necessarily true, Yixian said. At this moment, Yang Qi suddenly flew over and whispered, Brat, I obtained a lot of draconic luck in the past 2 days. I'll give you all of it. Crush the prince's medallion and leave to secure the draconic luck. This? Yixian raised his eyebrows and said, You don't plan to fight for this inheritance. The inheritance is indeed important, But the draconic luck is even more important. If the sixth prince can become the crown prince, these things are nothing, Yangqi continued. He was thinking for the sixth prince. After all, he was the sixth prince's personal guard. Then why don't we explore this high-grade inheritance first? If it doesn't work, just crush the prince's medallion and leave, Yixian suggested. As you can see, there are a few people with 90% physique ceiling realm here. The weakest one is at 85% physique ceiling realm. You're only at 70% physique ceiling realm. Can you help? Yangqi was very doubtful. Although he had heard that Yixian had successfully challenged someone 3 levels above him, he had only succeeded in defeating someone with 70% physique ceiling realm. Haha. Yixian smiled and turned to look at Xia Yuni. He whispered, "If the opponent is that old man, I'm confident I can kill him." What? Yangqi suspected that he had misheard. Yixian was confident that he could kill Xia Yuni, who was at 85% physique ceiling realm. Alright, since that's the case, you'll come with me. Yangqi immediately nodded. If anything happened along the way, he would crush Yixian's prince's medallion and eliminate Yixian. This would prevent the medallion from being taken away and draconic luck from being absorbed. Then Yangqi walked over with Yixian. The other 2 forces also gathered. Captain Yang, are you going to bring him along? The middle-aged man in blue asked in shock. You don't have to worry about that. Yangqi didn't waste time. Yixian was his trump card. When everyone heard this, they snorted inwardly. It was already a miracle that Yixian, who was at 70% physique ceiling realm, could survive until now. However, he still wanted to explore this high-grade inheritance. He was courting death. No one present dared to underestimate Yangqi's strength, but bringing along a burden was a waste of time. This brat probably has a lot of draconic luck. Yangqi has already given it to him. If necessary, he can send it out of the secret realm. Everyone came to a realization. In their eyes, Yixian was equivalent to a transporter. We have 2 people from each of the 4 forces. Since that's the case, tell us about this high-grade inheritance. A black-clad old man under the first prince looked at the middle-aged man in blue. The middle-aged man in blue was the first to arrive. He had also absorbed the draconic luck pillar at the entrance of the canyon. At the same time, he had also gone in to explore. Now that everyone was present, the middle-aged man in blue didn't hide anything and explained. When I went in to explore just now, I was surrounded by many armored cavalrymen. These armored cavalrymen would regroup after being defeated. So I suspect that this is the inheritance of the Wolf Fang general from 1,000 years ago. When the middle-aged man in blue finished speaking, everyone present was shocked. The Wolf Fang general? It can't be, right? Xia Yuni said subconsciously. After all, he had seen the Wolf Fang general's dragon-patterned golden armor with his own eyes. After all, his grandson had died at the hands of the man wearing the dragon-patterned golden armor. Chapter 778. It's just a suspicion. If you don't believe me, you can follow me in and take a look, the middle-aged man in blue said. Let's call him the Wolf Fang general then. How strong is the Wolf Fang cavalry? The old man in black asked. A single Wolf Fang cavalry is comparable to an 8th level physique ceiling realm martial artist, the middle-aged man in blue answered. The next moment everyone was shocked. It said that the Wolf Fang general has 3,000 Wolf Fang cavalry. If a single Wolf Fang cavalry is that strong, we'll definitely die if we go in. That's right. Even if we're strong, we won't be able to survive against 3,000 8th level physique ceiling realm martial artists unless we're supremes. There's no way to get the inheritance. Can we just go over the cliff? Everyone looked solemn. At this moment, the middle-aged man in blue said, No, there's a formation at the top of the canyon. Even I can't break it. But it's not as difficult as you think. I estimate that there are only 300 Wolf Fang cavalry here. If there's only 300 Wolf Fang cavalry, it's possible. But is there a saber general under the Wolf Fang general in this canyon? A young man asked. Yes, but there are only 5 of them. I estimate that they're 9th level physique ceiling realm martial artists. Also, I saw the Wolf Fang general's dragon-patterned golden armor in the depths. The middle-aged man in blue nodded. Dragon-patterned golden armor? Everyone was shocked. This item was enough to make them risk their lives. After all, they all had hopes of breaking through to the physique-sealing realm in their lifetime. If they had the dragon pattern golden armor, their chances of breaking through to the Supremes would be higher. Xiao Yuni was the same. But he was shocked that there was a second dragon pattern golden armor in this world. Could it be that the dragon pattern golden armor I saw earlier was a copy, and only its defensive power was stronger? Xiao Yuni thought to himself. At the same time, Yixian was also guessing. There's a blueprint for the dragon pattern golden armor in the treasure pavilion. As long as I have the materials, I can make a dragon pattern golden armor. It seems that the dragon pattern golden armor in the upper inheritance is the real one. Yixian thought. He was determined to get the dragon pattern golden armor, because as long as he could get it, he would be able to wear it legitimately. Since that's the case, there's no need to say anything more. Let's each choose a breakthrough point, said the black-clothed old man. The blue-robed middle-aged man was unable to break through 300 Wolfang cavalrymen, who were equivalent to 80% of the body-sealing realm. However, there were 4 factions, and if they all broke through at the same time, each faction would have less than 100 Wolfang cavalrymen. That's right. After breaking through, the inheritance of the Wolfang general will depend on one's ability. Xiao Yuni nodded. To be honest, he was also very interested in the dragon pattern golden armor. However, it all depended on who reached the end and obtained the inheritance. As long as someone obtained the inheritance, they could crush the prince's token and fly out of the secret realm. As for the others, they had gained nothing. The people from the 4 powers each chose a breakthrough point. Yixian and Yangqi were on the far right. Coincidentally, Xiao Yuni was on his left, right next to him. The 300 Wolfang cavalry and the 5 deputy generals should be controlled by the experts of the royal family. It seems that the last dragon pattern golden armor will also move. Yixian reminded himself in his heart. Boom! At that moment, a loud sound came from the left. Someone had attacked the Wolfang cavalrymen in front of them. Let's go! Yangqi, who was next to Yixian, shouted and rushed over. The Wolfang cavalrymen were equivalent to 80% of the body-sealing realm, and there were 300 of them. If Yixian was alone, it would be extremely difficult for him to break through, unless he wore the dragon pattern golden armor. However, if he joined forces with Yangqi, there would be no problem. Yixian held the spiritual rhino sword and followed closely behind Yangqi. Yangqi was a 90% of the body-sealing realm expert and he was very strong. He also had the prince's token in his hand, and occasionally used the dragon luck to support him. Every time he swung his sword, he could send 2 or 3 Wolfang cavalrymen flying. Although Yixian was slightly weaker, it was not a problem for him to send 1 Wolfang cavalryman flying. At that moment, he used the Eye of Revelation to copy the martial arts of Yangqi, and the others into the Devouring system. Captain Yang, go to the right. There are fewer of them there. Yixian suddenly reminded him. He had discovered this with the Eye of Revelation. Just now, someone had broken through first, but it was not much of an advantage. If they had broken through first, more Wolfang cavalrymen would have rushed over. In this way, Yixian and Yangqi had benefited. Okay. Yangqi trusted Yixian for the time being and rushed to the right. Countless Wolfang cavalrymen followed, but they were all sent flying by the 2 of them. The Wolfang cavalrymen's defense was very strong. Even if they were forcefully separated, under the control of the imperial family experts, they would quickly regroup and continue to fight. If one were to compare the progress of the 4 forces, the 7th prince and Xiao Yuni were the fastest, because they did not hesitate to use the draconic fortune of the universe. Yangqi and Yixian were second, followed by the 1st prince's black-robed old man and young man, and finally the 4th prince's pair of middle-aged twins. Because there was a large number of Wolfang cavalrymen in between, no one knew the progress of the others. However, Yixian used the Eye of Revelation to discover this. The 7th prince's 2 subordinates are recklessly using the draconic fortune. They are about to break through. Yixian reminded. What? Yangqi was shocked. In the next moment his aura also surged. This time he was going all out. If Xiao Yuni and Xiao Yuni were to break through, then the blue-robed middle-aged man with 90% body seal would use a large amount of draconic fortune to resist the 5 deputy generals, and Xiao Yuni would be able to obtain the inheritance. Just as Yangqi began to use a large amount of draconic fortune, Xiao Yuni and the blue-robed middle-aged man had already broken through the encirclement. In front of them were 5 deputy generals with 90% body seal. Behind the 5 deputy generals was the coveted dragon-patterned golden armor. At the same time, on a table beside the dragon-patterned golden armor was an interspatial ring. "Come!" the middle-aged man in blue roared. His aura instantly doubled. He wanted to fight against the deputy Longdao general, who had his body sealed by the wills of 5 great emperors. At the same time, Xiao Yuni also used a large amount of draconic fortune, and followed closely behind the blue-robed middle-aged man. When the blue-robed middle-aged man stepped into the range of the deputy generals, the 5 deputy generals also charged over. As for Xiao Yuni, no one stopped him. At the same time, Yang Qi had already charged out, and Yixian was right behind him. "Don't even think about getting past me." Yang Qi used a large amount of draconic fortune to intercept Xiao Yuni before he could. Scram! Xiao Yuni didn't care so much and turned around to attack. Although he was 1 level lower than Yang Qi, he had come out first, so Yang Qi couldn't intercept him. Chapter 779. The dragon-patterned golden armor is also being controlled. Yixian's eyes narrowed. He had discovered a strange energy within the dragon-patterned golden armor with his insightful eye. Hence, he decided to help deal with Xiao Yuni first. Damn it! Xiao Yuni cursed. He struggled to block the attack while charging toward the dragon-patterned golden armor. At the same time, the other 2 forces broke through the encirclement of the Wolf Fang cavalry. "Stop!" the black-clothed old man under the first prince shouted. Xiao Yuni had already reached the dragon-patterned golden armor. Just as he was about to take the interspatial ring, the statue-like dragon-patterned golden armor suddenly moved. Pung! The dragon-patterned golden armor punched Xiao Yuni's shoulder and sent him flying. The punch was so powerful that it penetrated Xiao Yuni's bones. If it had hit his chest, Xiao Yuni would have died instantly. Fortunately, the dragon-patterned golden armor was controlled by a royal family expert, so it would not kill him. What? Xiao Yuni himself was dumbfounded. Just as he was about to obtain the item, he discovered such a thing. It was really too tragic. He was not the only one who was shocked. So were the others. None of the people present were able to block that punch just now. Body seal 100%. The dragon-patterned golden armor was comparable to a body seal 100% expert. Damn it, what a loss. The middle-aged man in blue cursed the person who set up this checkpoint thousands of times. He had used up his draconic luck to block the 5 saber deputies, but he did not expect to be a guinea pig. "Haha, you're finished." The black-robed old man laughed and suddenly rushed towards the blue-robed middle-aged man. The young man who was with him did the same. The middle-aged man in blue was already under a lot of pressure when facing the 5 saber deputies who had reached 90% body seal. With the addition of these 2 people, he had no way to block them. Crack! The middle-aged man in blue smashed his prince token and turned into a stream of light to leave the mystery realm. Finished. The elder in black's expression darkened. Since the middle-aged man had left, the 2 of them were the closest to the saber deputies. Sure enough, the moment the blue-clothed middle-aged man disappeared, the deputy generals with long sabers instantly turned to look at him. Then they attacked together. The black-robed old man was reluctant to part with this superior inheritance, so he immediately turned around and shouted, "Let's get rid of them together, then we'll discuss the distribution method." When the twins heard this, they looked over at Yang Qi. "All right," Yang Qi replied when he saw that the dragon-patterned golden armor was only protecting the platform and not attacking anyone else. But before that, he had to deal with Xiao Yuni first. Xiao Yuni was sent flying by the dragon-patterned golden armor. Just as he stabilized himself, a figure appeared beside him. "Old man, collect some interest first." While Xiao Yuni was defenseless, Yixian slashed out with his sword and cut off his arm. Hiss! Yixian raised an arm and quickly took off the Cosmos ring. Although Xiao Yuni didn't manage to break through to the 90% physique seal stage, he still managed to find quite a few inheritances. There were quite a few things in this ring that allowed Yixian's strength to soar. "Old man, have a taste of this move." At this time, Yixian suddenly struck out with his palm. This was the great compassion palm that Xiao Yuni had just used, and it was also the move that had injured Yixian severely. What? Xiao Yuni was shocked. This move was his ultimate move, so how could Yixian know it too? Boom! Xia Yunyi's body flew out again. This time, he flew directly into the range of the Wolf-Fang cavalry. The Wolf-Fang cavalry's range of movement was leisurely. This was the range of the 5 saber lieutenants, so they couldn't enter. But now they could attack. Gotcha! Before Xia Yunyi could land, one of the Wolf-Fang cavalry stabbed out with his saber, piercing the prince's medallion on his chest. He immediately turned into a stream of light and disappeared without a trace. Alright, let's quickly deal with these 5 saber lieutenants, the black-robed old man shouted. Alright. The elder brother of the middle-aged twins also agreed. 1 saber lieutenant each wouldn't be a problem. At this moment, the 5 of them all used their draconic luck to quickly deal with the 5 saber lieutenants. Normally, the twins wouldn't be able to deal with them, but they had obtained a lot of draconic luck, so it was enough to kill the 5 saber lieutenants. I can't reveal too much of my strength. Later, when we fight for the inheritance ring, I'll use my full strength. Yixian thought as he attacked the saber lieutenants. In terms of draconic luck, he had the highest draconic luck among the 6 of them. But don't forget, the others were all using draconic luck, so who would care about him, who had 70% physique seal? Yang Qi, who was the strongest among them, was the first to defeat a saber lieutenant, but he had no intention of helping. Kid, I'll use all my strength to block the dragon pattern golden armor. You quickly get the interspatial ring. Yang Qi whispered to Yixian. Yixian was stunned for a moment, then immediately nodded. Xia Yunyi, who had gone to get the interspatial ring, was only at 85% physique seal. Yang Qi was much stronger than him, and with the support of his draconic luck, it shouldn't be a problem for him to block a punch. In an instant, Yang Qi rushed toward the dragon pattern golden armor with Yixian. You didn't keep your promise. The black-robed elder immediately panicked when he saw this. They had agreed to deal with the 5 dragon pattern golden armor first, but Yang Qi and Xia Yunyi suddenly changed their mind. It could only be said that they were too naive. In the face of such an inheritance, they could throw away their integrity. Bam! Yang Qi had already stepped into the range of the dragon pattern golden armor. In an instant, the dragon pattern golden armor rushed toward him and threw a punch at him. Boom! Yang Qi directly used all his draconic luck to block the punch. The dragon pattern golden armor strength was comparable to a human at 100% physique seal, but Yang Qi was only 2 levels lower. With the support of his draconic luck, blocking the punch was not a problem. By the time Yang Qi blocked the punch, Yixian had already passed by them and was going straight for the interspatial ring. There was an array on the platform where the interspatial ring was placed. Yixian's profound meaning was useless against it, so he could only grab it with his hands. Damn it! The others cursed in their hearts when they saw Yixian grab the interspatial ring. Yixian didn't expect to get the inheritance of the interspatial ring so easily. He originally wanted to go all out, but he didn't expect things to turn out this way. The moment he got the interspatial ring, he quickly checked it and found that there weren't many things inside. He had the 10,000 divine thoughts technique. He also had the forging methods for the Wolf-Fang cavalry, the deputy saber general, and the dragon pattern golden armor. This interspatial ring was completely useless to him. Chapter 780. While Yang Qi was putting away the dragon pattern golden armor, he was also dealing with the 2 saber lieutenants. Yang Qi had no choice but to shout, "Let's go. Let's get out of the secret realm." With that, he smashed his prince medallion. Yixian hesitated for a moment before smashing his as well. The 2 of them turned into streams of light and flew out of the secret realm. In the blink of an eye, they appeared at the place where they had entered the secret realm. There were already many people gathered there. Great, this is great. The 6th prince applauded as he quickly walked out of the hall. The cooperation between Yixian and Yang Qi just now was simply perfect. After that, they even obtained the inheritance of the Wolf-Fang general and the dragon-marked golden armor. Your Highness! Yang Qi immediately bowed after he left. You're welcome, the 6th prince said with a smile. Although Yang Qi and Yixian had used a lot of dragon luck to obtain the inheritance, the 7th prince, 4th prince, and eldest prince had also used a lot of dragon luck. Among them, the 7th prince's loss was the greatest. At this time he was already gnashing his teeth in anger in a corner. Your Highness, this is the dragon-patterned golden armor. Yang Qi hurriedly took out the dragon-patterned golden armor. In the next moment the crowd was in an uproar. The dragon-patterned golden armor's defensive power was amazing. It could even withstand 20% of the power of the lightning tribulation. It was a huge temptation to them. Some of the ministers had already reached 100% of the physique sealing realm. However, they could only suppress their cultivation and did not dare to break through. If they failed, they would be destroyed by the lightning tribulation. Yixian was a little helpless. He also took out the interspatial ring and handed it over. Your Highness, this is the inheritance of the Wolf Fang general. Unexpectedly, the sixth prince ignored the dragon-patterned golden armor and took Yixian's interspatial ring. The blueprints for the Wolf Fang cavalry, the saber lieutenants, and the dragon-patterned golden armor. Good, with them I can build a powerful army. The sixth prince was overjoyed. He knew that the most valuable thing in the secret realm was the inheritance of the Wolf Fang general. Sigh, what a pity. Not only did I not get anything, but I also wasted the last day. Yixian sighed in his heart. He did know the 10,000 divine thoughts technique, but the 300 Wolf Fang cavalry and the 5 long blade deputy generals were all under the control of the imperial family. He couldn't take control of them. Furthermore, Deputy General Saber had been on the verge of being defeated, and if he had stayed behind, he would have been surrounded. Therefore he had no choice but to follow Yang Qi. However, right at that moment, Yixian, you've done a great service this time. This dragon-patterned golden armor is yours, the sixth prince suddenly said. What? Hearing this, Yixian could not believe his ears. He thought that the sixth prince would definitely accept the dragon-patterned golden armor. Who would have thought that the sixth prince would directly give it to him? Your Highness, this is... Yixian asked in astonishment. In the next moment he understood why the sixth prince did not want it. It was because the sixth prince already had the dragon-patterned golden armor. When they saw the sixth prince wrapped in the dragon-patterned golden armor, everyone was shocked. He has it. Yixian raised his eyebrows. However, when he thought about it, it made sense. The sixth prince was the son of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor. Moreover, he had a good character and was favored by the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor. It was normal for him to receive the dragon-patterned golden armor. At that moment in a corner. What? He has the dragon-patterned golden armor? The seventh prince's eyes widened. He had only just found out that the sixth prince had the dragon-patterned golden armor. If the sixth prince did not show it to him, he would still be in the dark. Damn that old man. How can he be so biased? The seventh prince cursed in his heart. Not only that, but the fourth prince and the others also did the same. Instantly, all eyes were on the sixth prince. There was envy, jealousy, and hatred. Yixian, take it. The sixth prince kept the dragon-patterned golden armor and laughed. As long as he had the materials, he could make the dragon-patterned golden armor himself. When the time came, Yang Qi would have it too. Most importantly, the sixth prince saw that Yixian was not ordinary, and wanted to use the dragon-patterned golden armor to keep Yixian. Thank you, Your Highness. Yixian quickly put the dragon-patterned golden armor away. Now he could finally wear the dragon-patterned golden armor. As for the extra set of dragon-patterned golden armor, he could leave it to others. You two go back and rest, the sixth prince said. Yes, Your Highness. Yixian and Yang Qi cupped their fists respectfully and left the imperial city under the lead of a eunuch. When Yixian returned to the sixth prince's residence, he went to find the poison matriarch and passed the poison king legacy to her. There were 2 more stages and they had to work together. There was still 1 day before the Battle of Draconic Luck. Yixian returned to his residence. When he entered the secret realm, he was only at 60% body sealing. When he left, he was at 70% body sealing. He felt that no one could stop him in the Crown Prince's trial. After the Battle of Draconic Luck, there will be a few days of rest. At that time, the sixth prince might give me some rewards. That way, I will be able to break through to 75% body sealing. Yixian pondered in his room. In fact, he had another option, which was to devour the dragon-patterned golden armor. However, while the dragon-patterned golden armor was precious to others, it was just a material for the devouring system. If he devoured it directly, it would not give him much experience, and it would be difficult for him to break through once. Therefore, Yi Xian decided to keep the dragon-patterned golden armor for now. If necessary, he would devour it directly in the next stage. After all, he had the blueprint for the dragon-patterned golden armor. As long as he had the materials, he could make it himself. His priority was to improve his strength and help the sixth prince win the crown prince's trial. Soon a day had passed. The battle of draconic luck was finally over. When the sixth prince returned to his residence, he immediately summoned Yi Xian and the others. For this battle of draconic luck, we are temporarily ranked third. The seventh prince is ranked first, the eldest prince is ranked second, and the fourth prince is ranked fourth. The sixth prince reported the rankings and said, "Not bad, we did not lose any members. In fact, we improved a lot." After he finished speaking, he turned his attention to Yi Xian. With the dragon-patterned golden armor, Yi Xian was probably the strongest among them. After all, he had obtained the most draconic luck, more than Yang Qi at his peak. The others might not know and only looked at him with envious gazes, but the sixth prince had witnessed Yi Xian defeat the Poison King's inheritor under the sixth prince's command. That was an expert with 85% of his body sealed. In this battle of draconic luck, Gu Jian, Chief Steward Zhua, and Yang Qi had all successfully broken through to 90% body sealing. Although the venomous witch was slightly weaker, she had also obtained the Poison King's inheritor. Moreover, the sixth prince had promised to help her break through to 85% body sealing. As for the other four, only Qiao Bao had broken through to 85% body sealing. The other three did not gain much. Chapter 781. These are the information of the other three princes' subordinates. Take a look. The sixth prince threw 10 sets of information to Yi Xian's team and continued. Among the teams in this battle of dragon luck, our team is probably ranked third. I'm afraid that the first prince and the seventh prince's teams have 90% physique sealing completion. After this battle of dragon luck, some of them have reached 95% physique sealing completion, and some of them are suspected to have reached 100% physique sealing completion. After hearing this, Yi Xian's team was shocked. Suspected to have reached 100% physique sealing completion? Who is it? Chief Steward Zhua asked. A woman in a black robe. I've never heard of her before. I don't know where he got her from. She was also the one who got the high-grade inheritance from the Heavenly Fist sect. The sixth prince shook his head and said, "Not only that, but the first prince also got a high-grade inheritance." Hearing this, everyone felt a huge pressure. If the seventh prince and the first prince both had such powerful experts, they would be in trouble. Then who are our opponents in the second round of the Crown Prince trial? Chief Steward Zhua asked again. Our first round is against the ninth prince, the sixth prince replied. The second round of the Crown Prince trial was a 2-on-1 battle. In the first round, there were 17 teams in total. After the Battle of Dragon Luck, the last 5 teams were eliminated, so there were only 12 teams left. Then these 12 teams would fight in pairs, and the winner would take the opponent's Dragon Luck. Phew! After hearing this, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. The ninth prince's team wasn't strong, so it wouldn't be a problem to deal with them. You've all worked hard in the Battle of Dragon Luck, so I won't mistreat you. These 10 interspatial rings are distributed according to your dragon luck. After the sixth prince finished speaking, he threw out the interspatial rings one by one. However, to everyone's surprise, the first one to take the interspatial ring wasn't Yang Qi's team, but Yi Xian's. Then it was Gu Jian's and Yang Qi's. The poison witch killed someone by mistake, so her dragon luck was reset to 0. However, the sixth prince also gave her a lot of things. The moment Yi Xian received the interspatial ring, he trembled. Not only were there a lot of treasures, but there was also something he desperately wanted. The illusory spirit fruit. The illusory spirit fruit can activate my Eye of Illusion. Yi Xian widened his eyes. The Eye of Illusion was equivalent to an illusion array that could be activated in an instant. It could cause the opponent to fall into an illusion array. Ding! Host has activated the Eye of Illusion. The system notification sounded. Currently, Yi Xian had already activated 2 heavenly eyes, the Eye of Insight and the Eye of Illusion. Although his cultivation level had not increased, his strength had increased. Moreover, as long as he wanted to, he could break through at any time. Alright, the second round of the Crown Prince trial will be held in 3 days. Go and rest. After the sixth prince finished speaking, he left. Yixian did not waste any more words and left immediately. However, this time, he did not return to his own room. Instead, he went to the kitchen of the sixth emperor's mansion to borrow a wild bird. Then, he used the eye of illusion on the pheasant. Coo coo coo. Everything in front of the pheasant's eyes changed. It directly crashed into the wall and kept flapping its wings, as if it had seen something terrifying. The eye of illusion is really good. Those who are not strong enough will be easily confused. When the time comes, it will be easy for me to kill the enemy. Yixian's lips curled up slightly. He was very much looking forward to the battle in 3 days. Ding! Host has broken through. The current great emperors will seal 75% of the body. 3 days passed by quickly. After 3 days, the sixth prince led Yixian and his team back into the imperial palace. This time, the venue of the battle was still in the secret realm. When Yixian entered the secret realm, he saw a huge arena. Beside the arena, there were already many officials of the Sunflame dynasty in the audience. Before Yixian arrived, many of the other princes had also arrived. The sixth prince led Yixian to the audience and waited quietly. Not long after, 10 figures appeared at the entrance of the secret realm. They were the seventh prince's team. The seventh prince's team was only left with 9 people, because one of them was accidentally killed by the poison witch. However, there were a few people who were all wearing black robes, looking very mysterious. They must be from the Nether Spirit sect. Yixian guessed inwardly. If Yixian had the eye of perception, he would be able to clearly sense the other party's cultivation level. Unfortunately, the eye of perception had not been activated yet. Not long after, the first prince's team arrived. There were a few powerful auras in their team, but because they were mixed together, it was impossible to determine who they were. Yixian waited for a while more. In the end, all 17 princes arrived. However, many of them were killed. Only a little more than 150 of the original 170 princes were left. At the same time, only 12 princes advanced to the second round. At this time, Eunuch Wu suddenly flew into the arena. Now let's welcome the 12 princes to the arena. Eunuch Wu's voice rang out. Then the sixth prince flew over. In the second round of the Crown Prince trial, each prince would choose 5 people to fight. The order of battle was up to each prince. The winner would receive half of the loser's dragon luck. There was a ranking stone tablet beside the arena. The ranking on the tablet would be updated in real time. Because the sixth prince did not know the order of battle, he had the 10 princes of Yixian draw lots before he arrived. Yixian drew the number 6, so it was the 6th round. Eunuch Wu called the 12 princes over to distribute the number plates. Not long after, the 6th prince returned and secretly distributed the number plates to the 10 princes of Yixian. Alright, next up is the first round. The 6th prince versus the 9th prince. Both sides will have 1 number plate. Eunuch Wu shouted. Once Eunuch Wu called out the number plate, the order of battle could not be changed. The 6th prince's number plate was the Poison Matriarch. Because she had accidentally killed a person, she did not have any dragon luck. Her opponent was a martial artist at 70% of the Physique Seal realm. A martial artist at 85% of the Physique Seal realm versus a martial artist at 70% of the Physique Seal realm. There was a difference of 3 levels, so there was no suspense in this round. The Poison Matriarch did not have any dragon luck, but her opponent did. Therefore, the Poison Matriarch had won this round. If she won, she would receive half of her opponent's dragon luck. If she lost, she would not lose anything. However, it was impossible for her opponent to win. The Poison Matriarch threw the prince tokens to Eunuch Wu after she went into the arena. Intentional murderer, your dragon luck will be reset to 0. Begin. Eunuch Wu received the 2 prince tokens and announced loudly. There was no suspense in this round. The Poison Matriarch slapped her opponent out of the arena. Unfortunately, her opponent did not have much dragon luck, but it was better than nothing. Chapter 782. If Yangqi encountered someone with a lot of dragon luck, then he would have profited. If he encountered someone with little dragon luck, then it would be a waste of talent. Thus, the 6th and 9th princes were observing the expressions of their opponents. The ninth prince had never intended to compete for the position of crown prince. All he wanted was dragon luck. They cultivated a special technique from a young age that allowed them to store dragon luck in their bodies and use it when necessary. Most importantly, dragon luck could be used to withstand the Paragon tribulation. In the second battle, the sixth prince sent out an expert with 75% body seal. His opponent was only at 70% body seal. Furthermore, he suppressed his opponent in terms of cultivation level and won again. The ninth prince was ranked below the top 10 of the 17 princes. It was already very difficult for him to gather 10 people with 70% body seal. Now that he had lost 2 battles in a row, his morale plummeted. In the third battle, the sixth prince won. In the fourth battle, the sixth prince won. In the fifth battle, the sixth prince won. The experts on the ninth prince's side had half of their dragon luck taken away. It was very tragic. In the sixth battle, it was Yi Xian. When Yi Xian joined, he was only at 60% body seal. Now, he was at 75% body seal. It was not bad. His opponent was only at 70% body seal. Oh, it's this kid. The sixth prince gave him the dragon-patterned golden armor. I remember. I thought the sixth highness would give the dragon-patterned golden armor to Yang Qi. Don't underestimate this kid's strength. He defeated an expert with 85% body seal at the Poison King's legacy. He seems to be immune to poisons. He's a good seedling. Who knows, he might become a paragon in the future. With the dragon-patterned golden armor, he might be able to. The ministers discussed in low voices. At this time, Yi Xian was the center of attention. He slowly landed on the arena and looked at his opponent. It was rare for Yi Xian to have a higher cultivation level than his opponent. I admit defeat. The martial artist with 70% body seal said directly. He couldn't beat Yi Xian anyway, so he might as well admit defeat early. Hearing this, Eunuch Wu immediately channeled half of his dragon power into Yi Xian's prince medallion. In the sixth battle, the ninth prince won. The ninth prince's heart turned cold, because in the next 4 battles, his people were all defeated. If the dragon luck of all his subordinates was reduced by half, then the total dragon luck of his prince seal would be reduced by half as well. A 10-win streak was a very good start, and it also boosted the morale of Yi Xian's 10 players. Next, it was the third prince against the 11th prince. Both sides won 5 battles, but the third prince still earned some dragon fate. Then it was the fourth prince against the 8th prince. The fourth prince's team had lost 1 person in the Battle of Draconic Luck, so they only had 9 people left. However, the 8th prince wasn't a match for him at all, and he was defeated 9 times in a row. Now, there were already 6 princes fighting, so there were only 6 left. Under normal circumstances, the older prince would have an advantage, so the first prince defeated the 5th prince with a score of 9 wins and 1 loss. The second prince and the 7th prince had both won 10 matches in a row. Just like that, the first round was over. It was the crown prince, the second prince, the third prince, the fourth prince, the 6th prince, and the 7th prince. Only the 5th prince was unlucky enough to meet the first prince. The rankings were updated. After 1 round, the first prince actually overtook the 7th prince and is now ranked 2nd. The 6th prince and the 4th prince are ranked 3rd and 4th respectively. The officials were also not satisfied. Although some of the battles were forfeited, some of the people with similar strength still fought very well. Now it was time to decide the order of the second round. Eunuch Wu would pick the order of the battles. In the second round, the first prince will fight the 4th prince, the second prince will fight the 6th prince, and the third prince will fight the 7th prince. Eunuch Wu announced the order of the battles. After hearing the order of the battles, many people's expressions changed, and the 4th prince looked the worst. The 4th prince's team was the weakest of the 4 princes. The 1st prince's team was very strong, and there was a person who was suspected to be a 100% physique sealing expert. Although he could admit defeat, he would still have to give half of his dragon luck to the other side. In the first battle of the second round, the 1st prince would fight the 4th prince. The 4th prince was obviously at a disadvantage, so it depended on the order of the battle. Forfeit. 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 The 4th prince looked at the 1st prince, who had a calm expression on his face. Every time the 1st prince yelled out "admit defeat," his heart would tremble violently. He was originally a strong contender for the position of crown prince, but now it seemed that there was no suspense. He only wanted to obtain some dragon fate to resist the supreme tribulation. After this round, the first prince overtook the seventh prince and took first place. Next, it was the second prince's turn to face the sixth prince. Second brother has two people with 85% physique sealing realm. The sixth prince hoped that his team would encounter the two people with 85% physique sealing realm so that he could plunder a large amount of their dragon fate. The first battle he sent was Yi Xian. At this time, Yi Xian had already jumped onto the arena. His opponent was one of the two people with 85% physique sealing realm. The second prince wanted to get a good start and raise morale so that he would not lose too badly. Damn it, I can't believe I met him. The gray-robed middle-aged man's face was gloomy because he had heard that Yi Xian had obtained a set of dragon-patterned golden armor. Since he practiced swordsmanship, it would be extremely difficult for him to break the defense of the dragon-patterned golden armor without using his dragon fate. The prince token had been given to Eunuch Wu. If he wanted to win, he had to knock Yi Xian out of the arena. If he lost, he would have to give Yi Xian half of his dragon fate. Not going to forfeit? Yi Xian thought to himself when he saw his opponent's expression. Let's begin, Eunuch Wu said. As soon as he finished speaking, the gray-robed middle-aged man attacked Yi Xian first. At the same time, Yi Xian gripped his spiritual rhino sword tightly. 4 directions annihilation. A slash pierced through the air and collided with his opponent's attack. Boom! A shockwave swept across the arena. Smoke and dust filled the arena and instantly enveloped both of them. However, Yi Xian, who had the Eye of Revelation, could accurately locate his opponent's position. 4 directions annihilation. Eye of Illusion. This time Yi Xian directly used a trump card. When the gray-robed middle-aged man found out that his opponent was Yi Xian, he was actually very nervous. His willpower was not strong enough, so Yi Xian immediately found a flaw in his state of mind. The next moment, he saw a huge figure rising from the smoke and dust. What? The gray-robed middle-aged man was shocked. Yi Xian was clearly a human. How could he turn into a giant dragon? He could not help but raise his head and look at the huge head that popped out of the smoke and dust. His heart trembled violently. Chapter 783. However, just as the gray-robed middle-aged man was in shock, a slash tore through the air and directly struck his chest. Crack! Amidst a clear sound, the gray-clothed middle-aged man was blasted flying, and he fell outside the arena. There was an anti-flight array on the arena. Due to his absent-mindedness, the middle-aged man was sent flying by Yi Xian's joint attack and ultimately defeated. Seeing this, Eunuch Wu raised his eyebrows. He felt that something was wrong with the middle-aged man, but he did not ask. Instead, he announced, "The sixth prince wins." He directly channeled half of the middle-aged man's qi to Yi Xian, then threw the prince token back to Yi Xian. What's going on? Why didn't he block or dodge? This is strange. Even if his eyes are blocked by the smoke, he should be able to block it with his perception. That brat is strange. I don't know what method he used to make his opponent absent-minded for a moment. The ministers began to discuss among themselves. It was not only them. No one present could understand what was going on. The middle-aged man in gray who was sent flying out of the arena had already returned to normal. He looked at Yi Xian in the arena and asked in shock. An illusion array. When did you set up that illusion array? It's a secret. Yi Xian smiled and walked down the arena. The Eye of Illusion was his trump card. However, it was a trump card that he could show to others. After all, as long as he matched it with the Eye of Revelation, he could use it silently when he saw his opponent's eyes. The middle-aged man in gray's words shocked the surrounding people. They had the same doubts as the middle-aged man in gray. When did Yi Xian set up the illusion array? Could it be when the smoke was rising? Haha, good. Although the sixth prince did not see it, he did not pay much attention to it and applauded. Now Yi Xian's strength was enough to intimidate others. He had the strength to kill an 85% physique sealing expert. This meant that he could fight an 85% physique sealing expert. The sixth prince thought to himself that he had not misjudged. He was thinking that if Yi Xian was nurtured, he would definitely become an invincible half-step supreme being. His chances of becoming a supreme being in the future were very high. Next round. Eunuch Wu did not waste any time and immediately shouted. Yixian was the first match, and Yang Qi was the next. Yang Qi was a 90% body sealing expert, and he also had the ability to challenge people above his level. Therefore, his opponent directly admitted defeat, and Yang Qi took half of his opponent's dragon luck. There weren't many experts under the second prince's command. Soon this round was over. The sixth prince finished with 8 wins and 2 losses. He didn't lose a lot of dragon luck in those 2 losses, so he also made a lot of money. The third round was between the third prince and the seventh prince. The seventh prince's current team was comparable to the first prince's, so the third prince was also not a match for the seventh prince. He lost 9 battles in a row. In the end, the seventh prince was still ranked first, the first prince was ranked second, and the third prince was ranked third. Where did the experts in the first prince and the seventh prince's teams come from? The sixth prince could not figure it out. The strongest expert he found was only 85% body sealing expert, while the first prince and the seventh prince's teams had experts who were suspected to be at 100% body sealing expert. Even if they each found a high-grade inheritance, the gap was too big. Now my trump card is Yixian, but Yixian's realm is too low. Even with the dragon pattern golden armor, I'm afraid he can only fight against a 95% body sealing expert. Moreover, my dragon luck is the lowest. The seventh prince's strength is not superior to mine, and the first prince is even more unfathomable. I'm afraid I'll be squeezed out this time. Although the sixth prince was unwilling to accept it, it was the truth. However, he could still give it a try. The top 3 have been decided. The third round of the Crown Prince trial will be held in 7 days. Eunuch Wu announced loudly. Then the princes led their own teams and left. Yixian was led back to the sixth prince's residence by the sixth prince. Everyone, what do you think of the current situation? The sixth prince asked after they returned to the residence. Yixian and the others looked at each other. Then Chief Steward Zhua said, "Forgive me for being blunt, but I'm afraid that in this Crown Prince trial, you are. It's hopeless." The sixth prince frowned. Yixian also felt that it would be difficult for the sixth prince to produce. Previously, he'd understood the third stage of the Crown Prince's trial and discovered that the third stage of the Crown Prince's trial was both a test of strength and strategy. Of course, luck was also important. In the second round of the Crown Prince trial, only the top 3 would advance to the third round. The third round of the Crown Prince trial was actually a sandbox game. In the beginning, it was a tripartite situation. Each side had 2 checkpoints and a main city, and each side's prince had to guard the main city. This was because once the main city was conquered, their side would immediately lose. The top 3 in terms of dragon luck were the seventh prince, the first prince, and the sixth prince. Each side had 2 checkpoints. For example, the sixth prince's 2 checkpoints were adjacent to each other. At the same time, these 2 checkpoints were adjacent to the seventh prince's and the first prince's checkpoints. To put it simply, the sixth prince had 2 checkpoints. One of them had to fight the seventh prince's checkpoint, while the other had to fight the first prince's checkpoint. The sixth prince had to give orders to both checkpoints at the same time. As for the 3 princes, they could only leave the main city and join the battle when one of their checkpoints was conquered, or when the enemy's checkpoint was conquered. Every main city started with 1,500 soldiers. At the same time, there were some resource points in the sandbox game. As long as one occupied these resource points, they would instantly gain 500 soldiers. The last remaining prince would become the crown prince. As for the dragon luck in the first 2 rounds, there were many ways to use it in the third round. For example, they could directly use dragon luck to exchange for soldiers. When the checkpoints were under attack, they could also use dragon luck to control the arrow towers to kill the enemy. The sixth prince's 10 subordinates all had dragon luck. In the third round, the sixth prince would obtain the total dragon luck of all 10 of them. At the same time, Yixian's 10 subordinates' dragon luck would not decrease and could still be used. This was the final round of the Crown Prince trial. Strength was indeed important, but luck and strategy were also very important. Even a 100% physique sealing expert might not necessarily be able to lead a battle. However, the sixth prince's team was already weaker than the first prince and the seventh prince. He could only rely on the dragon luck that he had accumulated in his early years. Forget it, I will succeed or die trying. If we are comparing dragon luck, I will definitely be the one with the most. The sixth prince thought to himself. Chapter 784. Go back and rest, the sixth prince said after a moment of thought. Yes, your highness. Yi Xian and the others nodded respectfully. However, the sixth prince called out again. Yi Xian, you stay. Hearing this, Yi Xian's footsteps paused. After Chief Steward Zhua and the others left, the sixth prince asked, Yi Xian, if I give you more cultivation resources, will you be able to break through in 7 days? As long as I have enough, I can definitely break through. Yi Xian's eyes lit up as he said solemnly. He was currently at 75% body seal. If he broke through again, he would be at 80% body seal. At that time, he would not be afraid even if he faced an expert at 100% body seal. Alright, this interspatial ring is for you. You must break through. The sixth prince threw an interspatial ring to Yi Xian without saying anything else. This time he decided to bet on Yi Xian. Of course, he had already ordered the dragon pattern golden armor to be made for Yang Qi as well. Yi Xian caught the interspatial ring and looked inside. His heart trembled. These things were enough for him to break through to 80% body seal. Thank you, your highness. Yi Xian hurriedly thanked him. In fact, he wanted to say something to the sixth prince. As long as the sixth prince was willing to give him all his wealth, he would definitely help the sixth prince become the crown prince. You should go and rest too, the sixth prince said. Yes, your highness. Yi Xian answered and left. After he left, the sixth prince also paused for a moment before leaving the sixth prince's residence. This time he would either succeed or die trying, so he wanted to borrow some draconic luck from the other princes. In fact, he had another plan in mind, which was to use the draconic luck to pass the supremacy tribulation. He was already at 100% body seal. With the dragon pattern golden armor and draconic luck, his chances of passing the tribulation were not low. However, if he failed to pass the tribulation, then he would be struck and his soul would scatter. With his talent, he would definitely be able to break through to the supremacy realm in the future, so he did not dare to take the risk. Of course, if he succeeded and became a supremacy, the position of crown prince would definitely be his. After being rewarded by the sixth prince, Yi Xian hurriedly returned to his room. Ding! The host has broken through. The current seal of the great emperor's will is at 80%. The moment he closed the door, Yi Xian's aura suddenly surged. He had broken through. The reward from the sixth prince was enough for a person to reach 90% of the body sealing realm. It was very precious. But to Yi Xian, these things could only go from 75% to 80%. I've broken through. Now, I don't have to be afraid of those experts who seem to have reached 100%. If I were to comprehend sword intent, I would be invincible among half-supremes. Yi Xian sat cross-legged on the bed and immersed his mind into the devouring space. Currently, he was still unable to specifically devour the sword will, so he would refine the sword will on his own, but every time he would fail. One had to admit that sword god Bahuang was really lucky to actually be able to comprehend sword intent. He stayed in his room for 7 days, but he still couldn't refine the sword will. He gave up. When the 7 days were up, he hurriedly left the residence and went to the training field. The sixth prince and the others were already there. When the sixth prince saw Yi Xian, his eyes lit up. Good. You didn't disappoint me. Yi Xian smiled and walked over. Today was the last part of the crown prince's trial by fire. The 3 princes were staking everything on this one throw. They were determined to win the position of crown prince. During the 7 days, Yang Qi and Poison, which had both made breakthroughs. Yang Qi broke through to 95% of the body sealing realm. At the same time, the sixth prince rewarded him with a set of dragon patterned golden armor. Poison, which had obtained the legacy of the Poison King, and with the help of the sixth prince, she smoothly broke through to 90% of the body sealing realm. As for the others, they had also improved their strength. Let's go. The sixth prince led the 10 people into the palace. The ministers had already gathered, and the other princes had also arrived. TSK. First prince, sixth prince, seventh prince. Who will become crown prince? I think the mysterious first prince will win. I think the seventh prince will win. The ministers were still discussing in private. Yixian looked at the hundreds of ministers and imperial experts of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty and couldn't help but feel nervous. As long as he helped the sixth prince become crown prince, he wouldn't have to worry about the resources he needed to break through to the supremacy level. However, the other two princes weren't weak either. It wouldn't be easy to have the last laugh. After the sixth prince arrived, he stood at the side with Yixian and the others. He began to size up the first prince and seventh prince's teams. As expected, the auras of the two teams were much stronger than before. It seemed that they had also received a lot of rewards. After a while, Eunuch Wu appeared. Not only that, but there was also a middle-aged man in golden clothes behind him. He wore a golden crown. This man was the current emperor, the sixth prince's father. When he appeared, everyone in the hall couldn't help but look solemn. At the same time, they felt a huge pressure descend. A supremacy expert. The emperor of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty is a supremacy expert. Yixian was shocked in his heart. However, it made sense when he thought about it. Even the sixth prince had achieved 100% of the physique sealing realm. The emperor was a supremacy expert. Yixian estimated that if all the experts in the hall besieged the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty emperor, they wouldn't be able to hurt him at all. He was an expert with a supremacy golden body. In a battle between supremacy experts, unless one had a powerful supremacy martial technique or comprehended the sword intent, it was very difficult to die. Yixian looked at the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty emperor with flickering eyes. If he had refined the sword intent, his attack would be able to hurt a real supremacy with a supremacy golden body. Unfortunately, he hadn't. Are the three of you ready? The Sunflame Sacred Dynasty emperor looked at the three princes. We are ready. The sixth prince and the other two princes said in unison. The rules of the siege phase are the same as the first phase. Intentional killing is not allowed. If the prince token is broken, you will be teleported out of the secret realm. At the same time, the three princes can use the prince token to command their subordinates at any time. Eunuch Wu said. Then the first prince, sixth prince, and seventh prince's teams followed Eunuch Wu into the secret realm. The location where Yixian and the others landed was different from before. This time they appeared outside a city wall. This is your main city. There is a soaring dragon pillar in the main hall behind this main city. If the soaring dragon pillar is destroyed, Your Highness, you will be eliminated. Similarly, there is a soaring dragon pillar in each of the two checkpoints. If these two soaring dragon pillars are destroyed, the gate of the checkpoint cannot be closed. At the same time, Your Highness can leave the main city. Eunuch Wu said and handed over 11 maps. This is the map of the siege phase. Your Highness, you have 1 day to adapt to the environment. Tomorrow you will wait for the order to start the battle. Only then can you send your troops and leave the territory to explore the resource points. Chapter 785. After hearing Eunuch Wu's words, the sixth prince took over the siege map. On the map were 9 cities, 3 main cities, 6 checkpoints, and other locations. The checkpoint on the left is for the first prince, and the one on the right is for the seventh prince. The sixth prince glanced at the map. Rumble. At this moment, the gates of the main cities suddenly opened, and an orderly army walked out. When the crowd saw this orderly army, they trembled all over. Wolffang cavalry? The sixth prince exclaimed in surprise. Eunuch Wu nodded and said, That's right. The Wolffang cavalry is involved in this siege. Each side has 1,500 Wolffang cavalry with 80% physique sealing, 15 deputy generals with 90% physique sealing, and 3 golden armored generals with 100% physique sealing. This. The sixth prince was astonished. He remembered that the Sun Yan Emperor had only used a few giant stone golems to attack the city. Yixian also looked on in astonishment. The Sunflame Emperor dynasty was indeed powerful. These puppets can be controlled by the prince's seal and prince's token. Your Highness, please distribute them as you wish. These are the rules. Good luck, Your Highness. After Eunuch Wu finished speaking, he directly entered the secret realm entrance. In the next moment, the secret realm entrance disappeared without a trace. In the secret realm, one's senses were greatly reduced. At the same time, one couldn't fly or shrink the ground, so this was Yixian's home ground. Alright, I'll mark some locations here. You guys check them. The sixth prince didn't delay. He marked over 100 locations on the map, because he could use the prince's seal to control Yixian and the others. When the time came, he would have to command. After Yixian and the others marked their locations, the sixth prince said, "Poison Matriarch, lead Qiao Bao's group and 500 Wolfang cavalry to the checkpoint on the left. Set up a poison array at the city gate." Yes, Poison Matriarch nodded. She immediately used the prince's token to control a golden armored general, 5 deputy generals, and 500 Wolfang cavalry to leave. Qiao Bao was only at 85% physique ceiling, and the other 3 weren't strong, so they were assigned together. When necessary, they had to use their draconic luck to control the defense tower and counterattack. Fortunately, after the poison which obtained the Poison King's inheritance, her influence was not lower than that of Chief Shuo and the others who had 90% of their bodies sealed. Yangqi, Yixian, the 2 of you will lead the remaining people and a squad to the right checkpoint. Wait for further instructions, the sixth prince ordered. When Yixian heard this, he immediately asked, "Your Highness, are you going to side with the 7th prince? The first prince is mysterious, and his influence is not any weaker than the 7th prince's. I don't think he will take the initiative to attack. He should first look for those resource points, replenish his forces, and then attack a city in one fell swoop." The 6th prince replied. "So, when the time comes, who's going to go explore the resource sites?" Resource points were extremely important for this siege. As long as they occupied a resource point, they would immediately gain 500 Wolfang cavalrymen. If they occupied a few more, they would be able to expand their advantage. There are a total of 10 resource points on the map. If we can obtain all of them, we will instantly gain an additional 5,000 soldiers. The 6th prince understood the importance of resource points, but he couldn't choose anyone to explore them. Hence, he asked, "Resource points can be reclaimed every day after midnight. There will be a huge battle in the middle tomorrow. How do you guys think we should distribute the resources?" The 5 of them exchanged glances. Then Yixian took the initiative to step forward and said, "The perception in the secret realm is greatly reduced, but I have a special method to find these resource points quickly. When the battle starts tomorrow, I will go." "That's right. At the beginning, we usually occupy the resource points first." "I will go too," Yangqi said. Then the skinny old man added, "My movement technique is not bad either. Count me in." "All right, tomorrow the 3 of you will go explore the resource points. Chief Shuo and Gujian, you guys will guard the right checkpoint." The 6th prince nodded. Unfortunately, his original body couldn't leave the main city after the battle started. Now that the battle had not started, he couldn't leave his territory. He could only move between the main city and the checkpoints. Thus, Yixian and the rest led a squad and left. It was only an hour's journey from the main city to the right checkpoint. Very soon, Yixian and the rest arrived at the right checkpoint. The right checkpoint was the same as the 6th prince's main city. It only had 1 wall and 1 palace. Those are the defensive arrow towers. As long as you use your dragon luck, you can control them to attack the enemy. However, it will consume a large amount of dragon luck, Yangqi said as he looked at the 2 arrow towers on the left and right sides of the 1,000-meter-long wall. "I wonder how powerful these 2 arrow towers are. They should be able to kill ordinary Wolfang cavalry." Chief Shuo couldn't help but say. Everyone led the army into the right checkpoint and looked around to get used to the environment. As the battle had not started yet, there was a special formation on the right checkpoint that prevented people from jumping down. At the same time, the gate couldn't be opened. Thus, Yixian and the rest couldn't leave the city to investigate. It wasn't easy to attack a city. They had to attack from the city gate. Thus, everyone estimated that the 3rd stage of the trial would take a few days. In any case, it wouldn't end so easily. Yixian also got used to the environment and waited patiently. The left checkpoint had Poison Matriarch's poison formation. It wouldn't be easy to break it. After all, Poison King was once an expert with 100% body seal. He was known as the Invincible Half-Supreme. His poison formation was very difficult to break unless one was a Supreme. This was why the 6th prince was so confident. A day's time passed very quickly. Yixian stood guard in front of the city gate with Yangqi by his side. In a while, the battle would begin. When the time came, he would have to take the lead and occupy the resource points first. "Captain Yang, the 2 of you should occupy the 3 resource points nearby first," Yixian said. What about you? Yang Qi frowned. I'm going to take a look at the seventh prince's side. Although the perception in the secret realm is greatly reduced, I have a special method. If I can reduce the seventh prince's men, then the threat will be greatly reduced. Yixian said. The seventh prince only has 9 men, but they might send experts directly. Can you handle it? Yang Qi asked. Even with 100% body seal, I'm confident. Every resource point we occupy means an additional 500 soldiers. It's a huge advantage, Yixian replied. The cities were allocated according to order. There were a total of 10 resource points in this central territory. Each side had 3, but the 7th prince had the first, so he had 4. Yixian's target was the 4th resource point. Be careful, Yang Qi reminded him. Chapter 786. Yes. Although we want to snatch the resource points after the battle, we have to be careful of the enemy gathering their forces to break through the checkpoint, Yixian reminded. Yang Qi said solemnly. Don't worry. The 6th prince is worried, so he used his dragon luck to exchange for 2 more platoons. They're on their way. 2 platoons? Yixian raised an eyebrow. 1 platoon consisted of 500 Wolf-Fang cavalry, 5 deputy generals, and 1 golden armored general. The golden armored general had dragon-patterned golden armor, and his strength had reached 100% of the physique seal realm. Each checkpoint was guarded by 2 platoons, so they would not be defeated directly. Now the 6th prince had 2,500 Wolf-Fang cavalry, but he did not know how many Wolf-Fang cavalry the crown prince and 7th prince had exchanged their dragon luck for. Yixian Yang Qi, the battle is about to begin. Get ready. At this moment, the 6th prince's voice came from Yixian's prince token. Yes, Yixian and the other 2 replied. They could use the prince token to obtain the resources from the 6th prince. At the same time, the prince token was very important in this checkpoint, as it could also snatch the dragon luck of others. Once the prince token was broken, the person would be directly sent out of the secret realm. With fewer people, there would be fewer people controlling the arrow towers, which would weaken the enemy's strength. Therefore, the 6th prince ordered that except for Poison Witch, no one was allowed to leave the left side of the city. After all, Qiao Bao and the others were not strong, and were not even as strong as the deputy general. They could just obediently control the arrow towers and the Wolf-Fang cavalry. The time has come. Let the siege begin. Suddenly a loud sound came from the sky. Hearing this, Yixian directly opened the city gates. Captain Yang, I'll be leaving first. After saying that, Yixian directly dashed in a certain direction. Now it was a race against time. Whoever occupied the resource points first would have the advantage. Yang Qi looked in the direction Yixian left and praised Yixian in his heart. That was because Yixian's speed was not slower than his 95% of the physique seal realm. TSK, this kid is indeed extraordinary. The skinny old man laughed. After leaving the right checkpoint, Yixian headed straight for the 7th prince's territory. He traveled at full speed, hoping to find a resource point first. If they occupied the resource points first, the main city would immediately receive 500 Wolf-Fang cavalrymen. Therefore, they would take as much as they could. My perception will be greatly reduced in the secret realm, but I have the Eye of Revelation. I have the greatest advantage. Yixian sprinted over. The 3 main cities were actually not far from each other. It would only take a few hours to reach the neighboring checkpoint. However, the map that Eunuch Wu gave him only indicated the approximate location of the resource points, not the specific ones. But for Yixian, this was not a difficult task. If Yang Qi takes the 3 closest resource points and I take 1 more, then we'll have 500 more soldiers. With that thought in mind, Yixian summoned his dragon-marked golden armor. This was the first time he had used the dragon-patterned golden armor since he entered the imperial capital. Although he had the Eye of Revelation, it was better to wear it just in case. He ran for more than an hour. Along the way, he constantly used the Eye of Revelation to scan the surroundings. He discovered that there were still quasi-supreme sacred beasts around. This made him secretly wish that it would be great if he had the Eye of Control. He could directly control these quasi-supreme sacred beasts. At this moment, Yixian suddenly saw a place. He immediately stopped in his tracks and rushed in that direction. It was a cave. It looked ordinary, But Yixian's eye of revelation saw the flow of spiritual energy. He looked at the map copied by the Devouring system and realized that this was the area where the 7th prince's additional resource point was. Is my luck that good? Yixian was a little suspicious and immediately rushed over. He cautiously entered the cave and saw a dragon luck pillar. It's indeed a resource point. Yixian raised his eyebrows and hurriedly absorbed the dragon luck on the dragon luck pillar. Then a platform beside the dragon luck pillar lit up with a blue light. The 7th prince's light was red, the 1st prince's light was white, and the blue light represented the 6th prince. Successfully occupied. 6th prince, I have occupied a resource point number 4. Yixian immediately used the prince token to obtain the resource point from the 6th prince. Good. The 6th prince immediately replied. However, in the next moment, he realized that the 3 resource points closest to him were marked as number 8, number 9, and number 10. Yixian, you went to the 7th prince's side? The 6th prince asked in shock. Yes, I occupied it. Yixian nodded. Now that he had occupied this resource point, it would not be occupied again today. At this moment, 500 Wolfang cavalrymen had respawned in the 6th prince's main city. The resource point would respawn at midnight and he could continue to occupy it. Then, another 500 Wolfang cavalrymen would appear. Originally, the 6th prince's main city only had 500 Wolfang cavalrymen, but now another 500 had appeared, making it a total of 1,000 Wolfang cavalrymen. Well done. Be careful when you come back. The 6th prince reminded him. Understood. Yixian nodded. Although that was his answer, he did not want to leave just like that. Since number 4 was near the 4th prince's side, the 4th prince would definitely send someone over first. Yixian guessed that someone was already searching for resource point number 4. It was not easy to find things in the secret territory. Yixian was lucky that he had the Eye of Revelation. Otherwise, he would not have found it so easily. Tisk tsk. Let me use the Poison King's myriad poisons God-killing formation. Yixian grinned. Although he had given the Poison King's legacy to the poison witch, he had already copied it into the Devouring system, so he knew how to use it too. A few seconds later, the cave was filled with danger. If he was not careful, even a 90% body seal expert would die. After leaving the cave, Yixian hid around the cave. Instead of going to the next resource point, he might as well wait for the 7th prince to lose some people first. The 7th prince already had one less person. If he lost another person, there would only be 8 people left. With so few people, even if they had a large army, they would not be able to control it. Yixian squatted on the ground. 10 minutes later, a figure entered his line of sight. He's here. Yixian held the Wolfang sword, his eyes gleaming. This figure was very fast. He was at least 90% body seal expert. He rushed into the cave. At that moment, Yixian directly went into hiding. What? A cry of surprise came from the depths of the cave. It was unknown whether the other party had discovered that the resource point had been occupied, or that they had discovered the poison formation. Kill. After hearing this, Yixian charged in without hesitation. He was the one who had set up the poison formation. Fighting in it would increase his strength in disguise. Not good. When the people inside heard the commotion, they immediately shouted in a low voice. At this moment, Yixian had already rushed in wearing the dragon-patterned golden armor. Boom! Chapter 787. Dressed in black, you must be from the ghost cult, right? Yixian asked subconsciously. He remembered that the 7th prince had 3 black-robed subordinates. One was a woman suspected to be at 100% physique ceiling, while the other 2 were at 95% physique ceiling. Hearing Yixian's question, the man's body uncontrollably moved. Although he didn't answer directly, his body answered Yixian's question. You're courting death. The black-robed man roared as he charged toward Yixian. He recognized the dragon-patterned golden armor, but Yixian's prince's medallion was inside the armor. It would be difficult to defeat Yixian. Therefore, he had no choice but to force his way through. Haha, if you want to pass through, you have to pay the toll. Yixian laughed as he charged forward. The cave was filled with colorless and odorless poisonous fog. His opponent was already poisoned, but even if he wasn't, Yixian still had a way to deal with him. Wolfang charge. Yixian stabbed out with his Wolfang sword. and a giant wolf head pounced forward. Netherworld stab. The black-robed man's expression darkened. He extended an arm from under his robes and stabbed at the giant wolf head. Poof! The giant wolf head was pierced, and it instantly dissipated. Yixian was slightly surprised. Like Yang Qi, this person was only at 95% physique ceiling, but he was much stronger than Yang Qi. However, this was still not enough to deal with Yixian. As the giant wolf head dissipated, a sharp circular slash tore through the air and sliced open the black-robed man's shoulder, causing blood to spurt out. The black-robed man's expression turned grave. Fortunately, he reacted quickly, or this attack would have sliced off his entire arm. However, the worst was yet to come. The black-robed man sensed that something was wrong. He glanced at his shoulder and saw that the blood had already coagulated. Not only that, but the muscles in his shoulder were completely paralyzed. Poison! The black-robed man finally reacted, but it was too late. The slow-acting poison had already been activated the moment he was injured, paralyzing his entire body. It's too late. Wolf Fang charge. Yixian used his draconic fortune to stab forward once more. The giant wolf head bit down on the black-robed man, and in the next instant, he appeared beside the black-robed man, flicking and sweeping his sword. The prince medallion in front of the black-robed man's chest was taken out. At the same time, his left arm, which was wearing an interspatial ring, was cut off. Thank you for your dragon luck. Yixian absorbed a large amount of draconic luck from the prince token and crushed it. No! The black-robed man's eyes widened. How could he have imagined that in less than 2 hours after the start of the battle, he would be eliminated by crushing the prince's order? Unfortunately, that was the truth. Hua! The black-robed man transformed into a beam of white light and flew out of the secret realm. The 7th prince had lost one more person, leaving him with only 8 people. Moreover, this black-robed man was at 95% body ceiling. The 7th prince had suffered a great loss this time. Yixian hurried over and put away his universe ring. Sure enough, there were a lot of natural treasures inside. However, there was no information about the ghost cult inside. Yixian was sure that the black-robed man was from the ghost cult. No matter how strong the ghost cult is, they probably can't produce a supreme being expert. That's why the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor might know about it, but he didn't reveal it. Yixian guessed in his heart. Then he activated the prince medallion and said, 6th prince, I sent a 95% body sealing expert out of the secret realm. What? Really? The 6th prince exclaimed. Okay, I'll go to resource point number 3 now, Yixian said. Okay, be careful. The 6th prince was a little agitated. A 95% body sealing expert was actually sent out of the secret realm by Yixian. Not only that, Yixian even occupied resource point number 4. This was beyond the 6th prince's expectations. After leaving the cave, Yixian looked at the map and then rushed to resource point number 3, which was the closest to him. Resource point number 4, which was the furthest away, had sent a 95% body sealing expert. This meant that resource point number 3 was probably not the black-robed woman who was suspected to have completed her physique sealing. Yixian rushed for more than 10 minutes. With the help of the Eye of Revelation, he quickly found resource point number 3. Unfortunately, resource point number 3 had already been occupied. The other party had already left. However, this did not matter because Yixian was only there to scout. He would memorize the way to resource point number 3 and come back to occupy it after midnight. Following that, he headed towards resource point number 2. As expected, resource point number 2 was already occupied. Then Yixian went to resource point number 1. Resource points number 1, number 2, and number 3 were all occupied. However, this was within Yixian's expectations. This time he was here to scout. He would memorize the location of the resource points so that it would be easier to find them next time. Just as Yixian was about to go back, the prince medallion in his arms suddenly lit up. The 6th prince's anxious voice came from it. Yixian, this is bad. You've been eliminated. What? Yixian was shocked. Didn't he go with Yang Qi to occupy the 3 resource points nearby? How did he suddenly get eliminated? It's the first prince's men. He invaded our territory, but he was eliminated after occupying the resource points, the 6th prince said. Yixian frowned. He thought to himself, it's 90% physique ceiling, and his movement technique is amazing. To be able to eliminate him, it's at least 95% physique ceiling, or even 100% physique ceiling. If the first prince sent out 100% physique ceiling right from the start, the tempo would be too fast. Then what should I do now? Yixian asked. You go back first and help Poison Witch. I'm afraid the first prince will attack directly, the sixth prince said. All right. At that moment, Yixian directly left and charged towards his own territory. 3 hours had already passed and all 10 resource points were probably occupied. Although it was unknown how many resource points the first prince and the seventh prince had, they ended up with 4. 4 resource points could instantly increase the sixth prince's army by 2,000. At this time, the sixth prince had already divided the 2,000 soldiers into 2 groups to guard the 2 front teeth on the left and right sides. There were now 2,000 Wolf-Fang cavalry, 10 deputy generals, and 2 generals in golden armor on each side. Yixian couldn't help but admire the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. If so many Wolf-Fang cavalry were to be deployed on the battlefield, it would be a terrifying battle force. After all, the Wolf-Fang cavalry could be reorganized. More than an hour later, Yixian returned to the left side of the checkpoint to help Poison Witch. In this situation, it was best to observe the situation first. It was best not to act rashly. The black-robed man that Yixian sent out of the secret realm didn't have time to inform the seventh prince. The seventh prince only knew that he had been eliminated, but not by whom. However, Yixian guessed that the seventh prince would assume that it was the first prince. After all, there weren't many experts on the sixth prince's side. Unless the seventh prince sent someone to the fourth resource point because of the blue light. Yixian guarded the left side of the checkpoint and waited for a few hours. Chapter 788. In another 2 hours the resource points would respawn. By then, whoever obtained a resource point would instantly gain a large number of troops. However, the neutral zone was too dangerous right now. The sixth prince did not know if someone was lurking around his 3 resource points. Sixth prince, this time Captain Yang and I will go. We both have the dragon-patterned golden armor, so it won't be easy for us to be eliminated. Yixian replied. Alright, then you go to number 8 and Yangqi go to number 10. Once you've occupied number 9, we'll regroup immediately. The sixth prince replied. This time he chose to be more conservative. He only wanted to occupy 3 resource points. Immediately, Yixian quickly left the left checkpoint, while Yangqi left the right checkpoint. In fact, Yixian hoped that someone was lurking around number 8 resource point. That way, he would be able to find them first and send them out of the secret realm. Soon he arrived at resource point number 8. Just as he expected, there was a person waiting for him here. There's still half an hour before the resource points respawn. Let me deal with you first. Yixian did not say anything and quietly sneaked over. Just now, he was eliminated at number 8 resource point, so this person was very likely to be the one who was eliminated. Yixian used the darkness to slowly approach. When he was only a kilometer away, he suddenly attacked. Draconic Fortune. Wolf Tooth Rush. To be safe, Yixian blessed his opponent with Draconic Luck. With this attack and a sneak attack, he would definitely be able to catch his opponent off guard. Boom! 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 The giant wolf head smashed through a large number of trees and bit at his opponent. That person was shocked, but before he could react, he was bitten by the giant wolf head. Yixian instantly rushed out and slashed with his wolf-tooth sword. Swish! The black-clothed person's arm was directly chopped off. His expression darkened as he forcibly dispersed the wolf-tooth rush with Draconic Luck. Retreat! The black-clothed person did not care about his severed arm and immediately turned to leave. Yixian quickly rushed over, took the black-clothed person's ring of cosmos and devoured it, then quickly chased after him. You want to leave? Did you ask for my permission? Yixian roared as he madly attacked. Each of his attacks was blessed with Draconic Luck. Damn it! The black-clothed man cursed angrily because he couldn't even see Yixian's shadow. However, he could sense that Yixian was only 80% body seal. Even he did not expect that someone with an 80% body seal would be able to defeat someone with a 95% body seal. He's so fast, but it doesn't sound like Yangqi. Who could it be? The black-garbed man had no idea what was going on. However, he realized that Yixian was actually faster than him. Most importantly, Yixian's attacks were extremely ferocious, and he had no choice but to use his draconic luck to block them. Boom! 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 Their true chi collided and countless trees were broken. However, just as Yixian was about to catch up to him, he suddenly heard a series of noises. This was the Wolf-Fang cavalry. What a guy! He actually brought out quite a few Wolf-Fang cavalry. Yixian's heart trembled. He didn't know if the other party had brought out a saber deputy or a golden armor general. If there was a golden armor general, then it would be troublesome. So what if there is a golden armor general? I also have the dragon pattern golden armor. Even if I can't beat him, I can still escape. Yixian sneered in his heart and continued to chase. Rumble! Hundreds of Wolf-Fang cavalry appeared. And at the same time, 2 saber deputies with 90% body seal appeared. The black-clothed man joined forces with these puppets to counterattack Yixian. What a joke! In front of absolute strength, these are all decorations. Yixian roared in his heart and attacked crazily. Draconic luck. Firmament splitter. The firmament splitter supported by draconic luck was extremely powerful. One strike could split the armor of the Wolf-Fang cavalry in half. Even the saber deputies couldn't withstand it and could only be sent flying. This time, the black-clothed man had brought 300 Wolf-Fang cavalry and 2 saber deputies. He originally thought that he could take down a resource point, but unexpectedly, he encountered Yixian. It's him. At this moment, the black-clothed man finally realized who was chasing him. It was Yixian, who was rewarded with the dragon pattern golden armor by the 6th prince. What a joke! With the dragon pattern golden armor, even if Yixian just stood there and let the Wolf-Fang cavalry attack him, they probably wouldn't be able to break through his defense. Go! The black-clothed man didn't care too much. He directly activated the prince's order and controlled the Wolf-Fang cavalry and the saber deputies to surround Yixian while he himself escaped. You want to leave? Stay here. Yixian was like a sharp knife that directly split the Wolf-Fang cavalry apart and went straight for the black-clothed man. Damn it! Seeing that so many Wolf-Fang cavalry couldn't stop Yixian, the black-clothed man's face sank to the bottom. He suddenly smelled a dangerous aura. Xiu! 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 Yixian moved extremely quickly. He slashed out more than 10 times in a second and blocked the black-clothed man's escape route. The black-clothed man had no choice but to turn around and allow Yixian to close the distance. The black-clothed man's speed was still considered fast. Otherwise, Yixian would have caught up to him. He treated his wounds, gripped his sword tightly, and suddenly turned back. He knew that he probably couldn't escape, so he wanted to cooperate with the Wolf-Fang cavalry and the saber deputies to chase Yixian away. However, he underestimated Yixian's dragon luck. You want to fight to the death? Wolf-Fang charge. Yixian sneered and directly stabbed with his sword. Break for me. The black-clothed man shouted and also slashed with his sword. Boom! The 2 true chis collided and a shockwave swept out. However, Yixian was still a level higher. The giant wolf head with a large amount of dragon luck bit into the black-clothed man's body. Eye of illusion. Firmament fissure. Shoo! A cold light flashed and the black-clothed man's other arm flew up. Now he didn't have the ability to break free from the giant wolf head, let alone escape. Looking at the black-clothed man who was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, Yixian quickly rushed over and picked up the prince token. When the prince token fell into Yixian's hands, the black-clothed man was already in despair. He knew that he was about to be eliminated. Thank you for your dragon luck. After absorbing the dragon luck in the prince token, Yixian directly crushed it. Hua! The black-clothed man turned into a ray of light and flew out of the secret realm. At the same time, Yixian also recognized him. This person was an expert under the first prince, but he was dressed in black. Because it was night, it was easier to ambush the enemy in black. Although it consumed a lot of dragon luck, the opponent's dragon luck was twice as much. It was a huge gain. Rumble! At this time, Yixian suddenly heard the commotion behind him. The Wolf-Fang cavalry and the long saber deputy general were still charging over. Is it automatically attacking the nearest enemy? Yixian didn't care about anything else and directly charged into the enemy. In less than 10 seconds, the 200 over Wolfang cavalry, and the 2 deputy generals with 90% of their bodies sealed were all destroyed by him. Not only that, he also discovered a secret. The Wolfang cavalry can't be reorganized? Chapter 789. The Wolfang cavalry can't be reorganized? Yixian narrowed his eyes. However, it made sense. If they could be reorganized, there would be too many soldiers. However, Yixian also knew the 10,000 divine thoughts technique. He tried to control the Wolfang cavalry, but he couldn't do so. He couldn't absorb them into the devouring space, so he had no choice but to return. This time the first prince also lost. Not only did he lose 300 Wolfang cavalry and 2 deputy generals, but he also lost a 95% physique sealing expert. Soon Yixian returned to Resource Point 8 and waited patiently. Resource Point 8 was located in a cave in a canyon. The cave flashed with a blue light. When it was midnight, the blue light disappeared. At the same time, the dragon luck pillar appeared again. Yixian didn't say anything and absorbed the dragon luck. Then the platform shone with a blue light again. Occupation successful. Yixian, did you manage to occupy Resource Point 8? The 6th prince asked. Yes. Yixian replied. Also, I eliminated a 95% physique sealing expert under the first prince. There are also 300 Wolfang cavalry and 2 deputy generals. There was a pause on the other end. Then the 6th prince said in shock. That's great. Yixian, well done. From the start of the battle, Yixian had given the 6th prince many surprises. First, he occupied the 7th prince's 4th resource point and eliminated a 95% inscribed physique expert under the 7th prince. Now, he eliminated another 95% inscribed physique expert under the 1st prince. This was unbelievable. Your Highness, I'm going to Resource Point 9 to meet up with Captain Yang, Yixian said and immediately left. Okay, be careful, reminded the 6th prince again. Although resource points were important, Yixian was much more important than them in the current situation. Not long after, Yixian rushed from Resource Point 8 to Resource Point 9. Resource Point 9 was empty, so he quickly went to occupy it. Yang Qi hurried over, and the two of them met up. Yixian, Yang Qi said after seeing Yixian. I can't believe you single-handedly took care of 2 95% body sealing experts. Haha, let's hurry back. Yixian smiled. The two of them rushed toward their own city. Now, the 6th prince had conquered a total of 7 resource points and obtained 3,500 Wolfang cavalrymen. In addition to the initial 1,500 Wolfang cavalry, and the 1,000 Wolfang cavalry that the 6th prince had exchanged for, they now had a total of 6,000 Wolfang cavalry. When Yixian and Yang Qi returned to the right checkpoint, they immediately called for a meeting. Now that all 10 resource points had been occupied, it was possible that someone would attack the city today. However, the 6th prince was still uncertain, so he decided to wait for a day. Guarding for a day did not mean that they would not go out. The 6th prince directly ordered Gu Jian to lead 1,000 Wolfang cavalry, 10 long-blade deputy generals, and 1 golden armored general out of the city to hide. As for the left checkpoint, there was even less of a need to worry because there was a poisonous array there. There were also 3,000 soldiers there, so it would not be easy to break through. This checkpoint was very peaceful. Yixian stayed on the city walls and did not notice anything strange. The 6th prince did not send any news, which meant that the left checkpoint was also safe. However, just as dawn was about to break, Yixian suddenly scanned the area with his eye of revelation and found something strange. Someone's there, Yixian immediately said. Yang Qi was shocked. He did not know how Yixian found out. He looked in the direction Yixian was looking, but did not see anything. Captain Yang, I'll go out alone to take a look, Yixian said. Be careful. Although Yang Qi was worried, Yixian also had the dragon pattern golden armor, and was probably stronger than him. Boom! The right checkpoint's gate suddenly cracked open. Yixian walked out and scanned the area with his eye of revelation. There was a person squatting 10,000 meters away from his 11 o'clock. It seemed to be someone from the 7th prince's side. Tisk tsk tsk. Is it a spy? Watch me clear you out of the secret realm. Yixian sneered and quickly sneaked over. In the secret realm, one's perception was greatly reduced. Although the other party hid his aura, Yixian could use his eye of revelation to locate him. When Yixian got closer, he realized that it was not him but her. It's a woman? Yixian was surprised. His eye of revelation could see the internal environment of a person's body, so he could tell that the other party was a woman. Among the three factions besides the poison matriarch, the seventh prince had a black-robed woman. Moreover, this black-robed woman was the expert suspected to have reached 100% body seal. At this moment, the black-robed woman suddenly moved. You want to go back after spying? Yixian's eyes lit up and he quickly chased after her. At the same time, he took out the prince's order and informed the sixth prince, asking him to tell Yangqi to send a golden armored general over. If the black-robed woman could be sent out of the secret realm, the seventh prince's side would not be a threat. After all, there were only 7 people left. Yixian immediately chased after her. The black-robed woman was very fast, so Yixian had to use his full strength. As a result, the other party discovered him. The black-robed woman was surprised. She guessed that Yixian was the same as her. He wanted to investigate and bumped into her. In that case, I'll deal with you first. The black-robed woman's eyes flashed. She suddenly took out a black longsword and turned it back. Firmament Fissure. Netherworld Spike. The two attacks enhanced by draconic luck collided, causing a huge shockwave. Now, even if Yixian did not inform the sixth prince, Yangqi would have brought people out. You are indeed from the ghost sect. Again. Yixian shouted and attacked madly. He had a lot of luck, which was enough for him to use. If he could obtain the luck of the black-robed woman, he would have profited greatly. Boom! 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 The two people's true energy collided, causing a huge commotion. Gu Jian, who was guarding outside the city, had received the sixth prince's orders. Now that he heard the commotion, he immediately brought a golden armored general over. Boy, you are very strong. Now I will let you have a taste of this move. The black-robed woman snorted coldly. After thrusting out her sword, she threw out a punch. A purple fist shadow flew towards Yixian. Such power. Is this the heaven-shaking fist from the Heavenly Fist Sect's high-grade legacy? Yixian's eyes widened. Fortunately, he had already memorized the trajectory of his opponent's true energy with the Eye of Revelation. Ding! Copy of Heaven-Shaking Fist successfully. Learn. Yes. Yixian did not hesitate and directly answered in his mind. Ding! Host has learned Heaven-Shaking Fist. The system notified. Quasi-Supreme Martial Arts were the transition between Void God Martial Arts and Supreme Martial Arts. Therefore, there was no proficiency level to speak of. Yixian directly learned Heaven-Shaking Fist and threw out a punch. Heaven-Shaking Fist.